It all begins with Seika Academy. It is a school attended by people who wish to cultivate their talents in the best possible way, whether in the arts, sports, or even in advanced classes. The education at this institution is considered the best in existence, and it is here in this highly prestigious place that the hero of our story is taking a severe beating. The reason for this is that everyone wants to see what kind of talent he possesses. He has already failed on the academic side, and now on the athletic side as well. This causes the expectations that everyone placed on him to be utterly shattered. Since his mother is a very well-known actress in this world, she is top class. Her name is Subaru Ayase, but she is not related to the Subaru from Re:Zero. She is someone with unparalleled beauty, who does not even need stunt doubles, since she is a graduated prodigy, considered the best in her class. Furthermore, she graduated from a university abroad. Right after that comes our hero, who is handsome, but that is all. Only that. He has nothing else to demonstrate, at least not for the time being. But anyway, let us continue with the beating he is taking. Yu sees that the exact same cycle is repeating itself, and this makes him extremely irritated, so he simply steps forward to fight against his opponent, although he cannot even lay a scratch on him, standing before everyone as a complete failure. Once again, he has been accustomed to this kind of treatment for 17 years. These faces of disappointment from seeing that he is not like his mother, they have been his daily company. But at least this is turning our hero into someone quite different. That is why, looking at his opponent, he quotes something that I saw once, which is that the more mediocre you are, the more obsessed with talent you will become. And with his extremely handsome face, this ends up impacting his opponent. But afterwards, he sees which position he is in, and he definitely does not have the right to speak like that. But our hero says this precisely for that reason, because he is the most mediocre of everyone there. And he also got to know real talent firsthand, with his mother. At this point, he was already about to leave, but suddenly someone arrives to inform the vice captain that the three queens are expecting a lot from him. Therefore, he must not fail in sports either. Because of this, he has no alternative, so he wants to beat him until he does something. But precisely at that moment, someone delivers a very impressive flying kick to the boy. The one who left him lying on the floor was the captain, who became highly irritated because they were about to insult martial arts by beating someone who had already surrendered. Behind her are two other women who stand out immensely. The one with purple hair named Kazuki, known for being a famous star of the theater group, since her talent as an actress is evident to everyone. And right after her is Miwa, someone who dominates all disciplines, and she is the youngest winner in shogi. And finally, we have the no less important Nico, a woman with athletic talent and a champion of martial arts. These women are known as the three queens, the best of each program in the academy. All of them are informed about the failures that our hero had, and the oldest of them, Kazuki, approaches to ask if he is the young man who has no talent at all. The poor boy answers yes, and the others are also disappointed because they expected something from him. That is why Kazuki says that he does not belong to this academy. But our hero had already told her not to worry, since he was going to transfer to the general education course anyway, something that none of them knew existed. And the young man was already about to leave, but Nico stops him, telling him that since he lost, he will have to clean the dojo. And this leaves him very irritated, because he is not even part of the club. But Nico says that rules are rules, and expects him to kneel like the good loser that he is. Everyone leaves disappointed with him, and they leave him cleaning the club. But when the martial arts club returns, they see that everything is immaculate. Even the place looks brand new. Meanwhile, Yu walks away thinking about what happened today, and this makes him remember when he was a child, and he hoped that they would also praise him the way they praise his mother. For this very reason, he exerted himself away from everyone's sight. First, he tried to learn how to act, and he went out to look for his mother to show it to her. But he precisely ran into her while she was practicing, and he was fascinated to see how she gave her life to it. No matter what interpretation it was, she always took it to the absolute maximum, and that was the first time he realized that his mother was a prodigy. On the other hand, he was simply mediocre. Then he tried with sports, but he fell flat on his back on the ground. Music was definitely not his place either, and not mine either, because I can barely play a guitar. He then kept trying everything, and this only separated him even further from his mother, since it made evident the abyss of difference that existed between them. Despite being family, 5 years or some time ago, his mother ended up becoming bedridden, and it was on a day when he happened to be visiting her. He found her watching a series that she co-starred in. This series was one that he also adored, and he made that clear to his mother. The woman did not expect that, and she asked what it was that he liked the most. Little Yu then answered that it was not that the series was very interesting, but he loved to see how they always ended in a family dinner, talking about many different things, and simply passing the time together, something that she also adored about the series. And it was on that day that, for the first time in years, Yu had a frank conversation with his mother. And thanks to this conversation, he realized that his mother, in reality, always wanted to have a family like the one from the series. And on the day she passed away, our hero Yu saw that she had left as her last note that he should have a happy family. Until this very day, he does not know how he is going to do that, but he intends to exert himself to compensate for everything that was lost along with his mother. It is then that he arrives at his destination, which apparently was the Mikadono residence. He is surprised to see that it is an enormous house. He simply enters using his key, since Mr. Mikadono told him that he could do so. He then becomes impressed once again, since inside, he sees that it is an authentic mansion. He wonders who this Mr. Mikadono actually is. Basically, they have only spoken over the phone. In any case, he begins to take out a small welcome gift. But just then, a woman appears, and she approaches and delivers a kick to him. The hero dodges, but he loses his balance and crashes against a wall. And immediately he realizes that he might look like a thief. So he stands up to try to apologize and clarify things to her. But the girl asks the newcomer what he is doing there, since she is none other than Nico. Yu is quite impressed, and says good evening, which makes her irritated, because she wants to know what he is doing there. Although before that, she was going to look for clothes to change into, but she ended up slipping. She then ended up in a position that was suspicious to say the least. And Yu, taking the opportunity to return what happened earlier, ends up laughing, because apparently, prodigies also kneel sometimes. Afterwards, he covers her with a towel and begins to dry her hair, and Nico evidently becomes quite irritated. But Yu tells her to stop, since preventing oneself from getting sick is the fundamental principle of martial arts, which made something beat stronger inside her. She is already falling in love with our hero here. That is why she calms down and says that it is fine, but that he should dry her quickly, since she does not want to continue in this embarrassing situation. However, precisely at that moment, the doorbell rings, and she gets startled and runs away, because Miss Kazuki had arrived along with Miwa. The oldest one thinks that she knows this guy from somewhere. All of them recognize him immediately, and Nico warns that he entered her house out of nowhere. He even tries to explain himself, but first, he wondered why these three are there. And just then, his cell phone rings. The one calling him was Mr. Mikadono, asking Yu if he managed to find his house. Yu expresses his gratitude for letting him stay there, and because of that, the man reminds him that his deceased mother used to be his friend and also his benefactor. Therefore, in this way, he has no problem taking care of him so that his talent endures. And in passing, he asks if he has already met his daughters. He forgot to mention it earlier, but he has 3 girls. The oldest would be Kazuki, the middle one is Miwa, and the youngest is Nico. He only hopes that they get along well, and this leaves him in a state of shock, since now he is going to have to deal with these 3 prodigious sisters. He is a single man in the prime of his life, and this situation seems almost like a dream to him. But looking at them, he seriously wishes that this were truly a dream. Nico says that since their father decided this, they are not going to kick him out of there, and Kazuki is quite disappointed to have to live with a mediocre person like him. Miwa says that she definitely does not intend to take care of him herself, and although they treat him worse than a beggar on the street, our young man thinks that no matter how much they are the 3 queens, they can manage to become a happy family, and therefore, he decides to introduce himself once more, stating that now they are going to have to live together, and he hopes that they get along well. Seeing that none of them pays attention to the poor guy, he prefers to pick up his luggage, although he trips on something very strange, and because of that, Kazuki removed the object from there like a flash, which finally makes our hero realize that this house is a complete disaster. The place looks like a garbage dump, and this causes all of them to become worried. He also notices that something smells very bad. He notices that they have not washed the dishes, and Nico complains to Kazuki, because that was her chore. The one with purple hair states that she had no choice, since she had to rehearse. Yu supports her, saying that she is certainly busy rehearsing all day, which gives her confidence to say that it is obvious, since she is a very important person. And because of that, Yu says that he will at least gather those dirty dishes that are broken. In a very strange way, her sisters then see that she did attempt to clean them, but she always gets frustrated and ends up leaving things half done. This makes her feel immensely ashamed, and Yu asks them who was in charge of washing the clothes, and they say that this was Miwa's task. She then begins to complain, stating that it is far too difficult to remember how to wash. Pressing the buttons in sequence is insanely difficult. Yu then says that in reality, this is easier to do than learning the rules of shogi, and because of that, she gets irritated, and states that he himself must do the washing from now on. Yu says that he has absolutely no problem with that, although it is a shame, because what she had written on her hand to remind herself will be of no use, and this also leaves her highly embarrassed. Poor girl. And in passing, Yu asks Nico if she is the one in charge of cleaning the house. She gets quite irritated, because they are exposing all of their flaws, and seeking to get revenge, she reminds him that he got a score of 4.5 on his test, so he has absolutely no right to say anything. Yu answers that in reality it was 4.2, while the three of them were mocking him. Suddenly, Yu has already finished cleaning the entire house. The boy is a machine. He left it absurdly immaculate. And Nico remembers that the same thing happened in the club room, since of course they left him cleaning the place. They are highly impressed with the guy, because he washes, irons, tidies up, and does everything. The boy is insane, and he simply says that he can do this whenever they want. This makes the three of them embarrassed, because no matter how much of a failure he may be, the boy inherited his mother's beauty, so he is very handsome, and this can be quite dangerous. On his first morning awake in that house, Yu gets startled, because it is complete chaos. From very early on, Nico is already practicing with everything she has, and Miwa, for some reason, is practicing shogi against an artificial intelligence. Kazuki is preparing a very strange drink for herself, and according to her, in the same way that people have a routine of getting up, brushing their teeth, and everything else, they also have their own routine. However, it is multiplied by 100. This is a clear difference between normal people and those considered prodigies. For example, even though it is a day off, Kazuki has to go to rehearsals for the theater plays. Nico has training, and Miwa has to play her little game of shogi. Although Yu would love it if they at least took the time to have breakfast, he can see how each one of them takes all of this very seriously. This brings back memories of when he lived with his mother, memories of his childhood. There were days when he tried in the same manner to prepare breakfast for her, but she would leave without even paying attention. Yet sometimes, she prepared a lot of food just for herself. And sometimes, these prodigies are so selfish that a normal person does not even know what is passing through their mind. And if with his mother it was already complicated, he wonders if he will be able to manage anything with these three sisters of his. When he sits down to eat, Nico arrives. Although she is dying to eat that whole pile of things he prepared, she avoids doing so, due to the fact that it is not well balanced. She is someone who improves herself daily in training, so she attaches great importance to what she is going to put into her body. And because of that, Yu sees that in reality, they do nothing by chance. He remembers that sometimes his mother would go on some rather crazy diets, all of this in order to maintain the physique of a character. It could be that the same thing is happening with Kazuki. Miwa, on the other hand, although she seems like a very careless person who eats whatever she wants in the morning, in reality, she eats a lot of sweets and treats to have plenty of energy for her brain. She is the type of person who is usually a tornado that drags everything in its path by simply focusing on herself. And in a literal manner, sometimes they move so fast that they ignore everything around them. As Yu does not want to repeat the same thing that happened with his mother, he decides to make a little more effort. Therefore, before they leave, he stops them, saying that they forgot something. They get startled because perhaps they really left something behind by going so quickly. But in reality, he only wanted to wish them an excellent day. And this ends up leaving them a bit irritated because that was foolish. It is something absurd, but which in some way had an impact on the heart of each one of them. Even more so on Nico's, who is already falling for our hero. And while in the house, Yu calls Mr. Mikadono once again, who asks how his first morning was. He says that he is already starting to get used to it, which makes him very happy, since right now he is quite busy, and he will not be able to come home for some time. Therefore, he is going to be alone with the three of them. But Mr. Mikadono also called him to ask for a favor. It is that soon his daughters will probably face some sort of challenge, something that bothers them or prevents them from making progress. This can be said to be part of the destiny of every prodigy, but he wants you to stay by their side and support them. Being together in this process will certainly make them open up to him as well. But for you, Hearing that a mediocre young man like him can help the prodigy sisters is something that makes him deeply moved. A good way to help them is to start with their current objectives. For example, Kazuki is preparing for an audition. Nico wants to go back to winning the karate tournament, and Miwa wants to defend her shogi title. Overcoming these small obstacles could bring them even closer together. And in fact, Mr. Mikadono leaves all of this in Yu's charge. He understands what he must do, but it is a very complicated task, since he is just a mediocre person, according to his own words. Furthermore, he puts himself in their shoes for a second, and thinks about what would happen if in truth, they could not complete these objectives. Given that he has already gone through a lot by disappointing people, and he knows how horrible it is to be in that situation, he might have managed to move forward because he is a mediocre person. But what about people with talent? How would they deal with that? Therefore, Yu decides to help them. And the first step is to get to know them better. That is a good way to begin. So he wants to go out to eat all together. And when a few hours pass, we see Nico arriving home. She almost has a heart attack, since she had completely forgotten that Yu is living with them from now on. Obviously he says hello, but he is also highly concentrated preparing food. And when Nico sees him behaving in such a helpful and masculine manner, she feels touched. Yu asks her to please try the food that he is making. In this way, she ends up waking up from her trance, and she quickly confuses things. She believes that he thinks he will be able to buy her with food or something of the sort. It is for that reason then, that she refuses the food, and states that she is not going to eat anything. In the same manner, she has already bought her own food, so she does not need his. She indicates that he can taste it by himself. She calls his food garbage, and leaves to take a nice bath. She does a very intense skincare routine, and right after that, she comes out of the bathroom, only to get startled once again by Yu, who is taking everything very seriously. He has a mountain of cookbooks and absorbs the information as if he were a machine. Nico sees that since she rejected his food, now he has become obsessed. And just then, Miwa arrives and also sees what is going on. She finds it a bit amusing, but Nico truly believes that Yu is only seeking attention, which brings back recollections from her past. Since childhood, the girls already had a rigid mind. People wanted to give them food prepared by incredible chefs, but they looked with disdain at the poor maid. Nico believes that she is the only one who can control what she puts into her body. Referring to the food, she takes into account proteins, minerals, calcium, and even vitamin C. According to her, she needs nothing more than that. But she feels curious. She then goes downstairs for a moment, just to see what it is that he is doing, and notices that Yu was not there. And because of that, she went down a bit further, and ran into an incredibly balanced meal. And it was then that Yu appeared. The poor guy was exhausted, and acting in a frenetic manner, he tells her that the food has a perfect balance. He made the proteins, the calcium, the vitamins, or whatever it may be, all become balanced with one another. He read a whole bunch of books about sports nutritionists. Therefore, this food should be completely perfect for her, and he asks her to please try just a little bit of it. This makes her feel a bit strange, since he exerted himself far too much just to give her something to eat. Upon eating, she notices that in reality, this is quite delicious, and tells Yu to please congratulate the creator of the original recipe, because it does not offend at all. In fact, he thinks it is like giving food to a frightened kitten, and in the end it ends up liking Yu a lot. But Nico, after seeing his face, becomes quite irritated. At that moment, Miwa also appears, with a bit of curiosity while she stands there salivating. Yu then approaches excitedly to state the whole nutritional table of the thing. So, seeing that they insist a lot, Miwa also feels at ease to taste the dish. Nico notices that he also prepared something special just for Miwa, which makes her feel in a certain way touched. Curiously, upon being the two of them alone there, they began to socialize, mocking themselves for doing something that they probably would not do, while Yu only smiled upon seeing them. Since this is a very beautiful atmosphere within what is possible, Kazuki then arrives as well. But she is greatly surprised to see that they are there peacefully eating. Once again, Yu tries to convince her, stating that he made brown rice for her with vegetable risotto, which seems to be quite delicious. But Yu does not stop there, stating that this food has a mountain of properties capable of keeping her skin healthy, ensuring that she does not age. In few words, they are special dishes for each one of them, to enhance their beauty. It seemed like she was about to give in, but in reality, she did not. She quickly understands that Yu won them over through their stomachs, but she is different. She apologizes, but that small family moment, and that food he prepares for others, is not something for her. Nico feels uncomfortable, because she remembers how Yu exerted himself a lot for them, and because of that, She was about to eat the portion that was meant for Kazuki, but Yuyu stops her, stating that if she gives in to her emotions and eats out of pure gluttony, she will gain weight, and this makes her feel irritated and embarrassed at the same time. While, with an angelic smile, Yu tells her to rest assured that he is simply going to pay close attention to everything she puts into her body. She certainly became embarrassed and irritated once again after that, because that sounds in a very strange way. With this, the days go by. But Kazuki was a tough nut to crack, and this frustrated our poor Yu a bit, since he wanted to fulfill the mission that Mr. Mikadono entrusted to him. But he is far from surrendering. So he went to the arts department. There, she is acclaimed as a complete goddess by the others, and Yu decides to proceed with his plan, and steps forward to greet her. Kazuki's followers look at him with zero interest upon learning that he is merely the mediocre boy, while the girl continues to act in a very active manner. She tells him not to come near, or he will overshadow her brilliance. But Yu shouts that she is very cruel, because he spent the entire night waiting for her to yield. He knows that his food is the best, and that she will end up adoring it, referring to his dishes. Then Kazuki becomes highly embarrassed, because the others are going to misinterpret him. She then warns him that he will pay for this at her house, and in this manner, it became even worse. Yuyu then, since he saw that his bizarre plan did not work, decided to ask Miwa for advice, since she could help him. Upon arriving there, he sees how other people admire her. Noticing that she has a different type of fan, he calls out to her again in a casual manner, causing the others to get irritated, because on top of everything, he is calling her by her first name in a public place. When Miwa sees him, she remembers those moments he embarrassed her, and begins to get very angry, as if she were standing before the devil himself. Yu tries to run away from there before they kill him. He then goes after his last viable option, which in this case is Nico, who was peacefully playing her shogi, and listen to how some classmates from her course had difficulties with certain problems that were given to them. They consider that everything is very difficult, but Nico approaches and gives a fine answer, stating that in reality, everything is utterly simple. They then avoid her a bit and decide to leave. While they were leaving, Yu ended up overhearing them talk, but he pays no attention to that and goes up to Nico. However, Yuyu notices how she is quite different from how she usually is at home, and they also do not treat her in the same manner as the other sisters. Even so, he approaches and asks if she has a bit of free time to have some dinner. The poor girl gets startled and says no and leaves. So Yu begins to follow her, and she, every time she sees him, runs away even faster. The guy is just like a stalker pursuing the girl. They stay like this for a good while, since Yu is very persistent. Furthermore, Nico runs at the same level as him, so both end up exhausted. They notice that sports are definitely not their strong suit. Yu, without mincing words, says that she seems to be the type who is lonely in her class. Nico answers that in reality, she cannot lower herself to their level, nor does she want to. After all, she is the queen of the academy. Yu says that he understands her, and this makes her truly irritated. She asks how he can say that. Therefore, Yu answers that he is also royalty, because he is the king of the short ones, of the fools, and of all the weak. Furthermore, this beautiful appearance that he inherited from his mother is basically like false advertising. In this way, Nico notices that the situation is definitely not easy for him either. But Yu takes advantage of this to say that being someone unique can be quite difficult, but it is also what makes us special. Furthermore, since he is very handsome. However, he is also intellectually limited. In some way, he is between these two worlds. He wants to try to explain this to her, but he ends up not finding the right word, and he ends up forgetting what he was talking about, which ends up irritating Miwa quite a bit, since he is lecturing someone without even knowing what he means to say. Although this very naive attitude that this young man usually has is, in some manner, a charm to her. In the end, she listens to what he has to say while she eats something. She states that she does not know something in an exact manner, but she remembers that when she was 3 years old, she saw how Kazuki asked for a special dish from their mother. On that day, she was super happy, and Yu was simply impressed, thinking about how this girl remembers something that happened when she was 3 years old. That is bizarre. I do not remember something that happened even when I was 12 or 10. Imagine 3. But at least this helped to have a clue, because perhaps the girl only wanted to eat the dishes that her mother used to prepare. Now, it is a matter of finding out what those dishes were, and precisely at that moment, she herself appears. However, she is staggering. She does not look well at all. She even ends up collapsing on the floor. He ended up taking her to the room, and her sisters become worried about her. But Kazuki says that everything is fine. But when they touch her forehead, in reality, The girl is burning with a fever. She is quite stubborn. In fact, when Yu arrived with a bit of healthy food so that she could recover, she ended up kicking the boy out of her room, stating that she does not want anything. Although being alone, she feels pathetic for having become sick. Her sisters mention that in reality, she has a rather fragile health sometimes, and right now, she must be exerting herself quite a bit in her rehearsals. Yu tells them not to worry, and that she only has to eat better to stay well, and this is something that he is going to take charge of doing. But she always ended up rejecting him in one way or another. But in one of his attempts, something very interesting happened. When he was about to kick him out of the room again, by accident, Kazuki ended up tripping and falling on top of him. She became irritated, stating that he does not even have the strength to hold her, so he should not even worry about her. Yu tells her not to worry and that he will fetch her medicine, but she does not have to miss her rehearsals, and because of that, he tells her that he could help her practice. After all, he is the son of Subaru Ayase, so this is something that he probably must know how to do. And since he says that he made his debut when he was 2 years old, Kazuki decides to give him an opportunity. They read the script, and Kazuki is the prince, and Yu ends up being the princess. The bad side is that he ends up acting terribly, and they end up kicking him out of the room once again. He asks her to let him try again, but the girl is already quite angry. And in the end, it turns out that Yu only made his debut because his mother is very strict, since he never passed any audition. And this, in some way, left Kazuki quite irritated. She thinks that this guy does not even know what he is doing, and he truly does not know what it is to exert oneself for real, paralleling why everyone calls him mediocre. With this, the days passed, and Yu kept trying and trying, and she kept rejecting him and rejecting him, because he acted in a horrible manner. This starts to be quite frustrating for the girl, because she always had to be perfect and did not allow herself to fail. Every attempt was valuable. But for Yu, this is just a game, or at least that is what she believed. As she wants to recover as soon as possible, she goes downstairs for a moment to take her medicine, and she ends up running into Yu. He is there analyzing that series and the scenes where he needs to improve. The young man goes to classes by day. In the afternoon, he stays at home occupying himself with the household chores. In addition to all that, during the night, he is taking time to practice, since he wants to rehearse with her. He has been trying in reality, but he continues to be terrible, no matter how much he exerts himself. However, on the following day, when he asks to be given another opportunity, and once again he acts in a very poor manner, she lets it slide. Kazuki decides to go along with his game, on account of how much he has been exerting himself, and she begins to practice. And for a tiny moment, a brief second, Yu did act in a natural manner. She even noticed it. Few people could notice, but she noticed. This caused Yu to become deeply moved, since after 14 years of failure, he finally succeeded. He begins to cry, and tells his mother that he finally succeeded. Kazuki then asks him to stop, not to be so dramatic, since it was only a second of good acting. Furthermore, he was supposed to be doing this for her, not for himself. He says yes, but it is just that even so, the emotion took over. Kazuki finds him silly, because he gets overly moved by such a simple thing. However, it also makes her a bit envious that he can be that way. And in the end, she notices how much she wants to return to rehearsing, and for that reason, she tells Yu that she surrenders, and that she will taste his food. This ends up leaving him quite moved, and she becomes highly embarrassed thinking about what she is going to do. But Kazuki asks him to please do a tiny favor for her. It is so embarrassing to say it that she covers herself with all her bed sheets. It turns out that she does not like carrots, nor bell peppers, nor mushrooms, and not any other legume or vegetable. Therefore, in reality, her problem is that she is very full of restrictions regarding food. And Yu gets a bit irritated, stating that she sounds like an elementary school child, which causes her to become angry once again. And the good thing is that she is a woman of her word, so she goes downstairs and begins to eat in a very elegant manner. But her sisters cannot even believe that she is actually eating that food. According to Kazuki, as long as it does not have the carrots or any other vegetable, it is not that difficult. But Yu approaches her ear and whispers that in reality, it does have them, and she becomes highly embarrassed. At least the young man is happy, because he could finally make these three eat together at a table, the way a normal family should be. But life with prodigious people who always seek the best of themselves is very difficult, and there are days when each one has things to do, and does not return until late, so they will not be able to eat together every day. Yu is quite accustomed to this because it happened a lot with his mother, although this frightens him, because that was the trigger for his estrangement from her. He does not stop believing that he is a useless man, and now it hurts him more because he wants to fulfill what Mr. Mikadono asked of him, which also makes him remember his mother's last wish regarding him having a happy family. But he wonders what a happy family does to begin with. To find this answer, he begins to watch the whole series that his mother used to make. And once again, it is not as if it were the best series in the world, but everyone used to smile a lot while being together. And that is the type of family he wants. In the series, his mother wears a wedding dress, and seeing her smile so much makes him want to have a family. But life is not like a series, and precisely at that moment, his three queens arrive. Nico truly seems devastated because she does not have much physical energy. But when they enter the living room, they run into Yu welcoming them. However, they see him crying and worry just a tiny bit. Miwa sees that he is watching a family series, and Kazuki notices that his mother acts in it. Therefore, she thinks that he surely misses her very much, although he simply appreciates her greatly. The young woman then tries to cheer him up in some way, very peculiar by the way, stating that he is merely a dependent guest and that it is not necessary for him to do so many chores in the house. Her sisters also support her, but Yu does not feel that way. He makes it clear to them that with his mother, he had many difficulties and always ran away, taking for granted that he was not like her. Therefore, this time he wants to do things right. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he wants to create a happy family. But this ended up irritating each one of them. Above all, Nico, who believed that family is overrated. And to begin with, she asks how he wants to do something like that if they do not even possess blood ties. And precisely in that episode of the series, the characters are taking wedding photos. The three of them observe the kiss that they give. Then they turn around to look at Yu and wonder if by chance he was referring to that. Kazuki cannot believe that for a moment she thought about marrying a failure, and Nico believes that she let herself get carried away and needs to intensify her training further. Miwa thinks that this is because of a subliminal message from that series. Yu says that he has already decided, and for that reason asks Nico what her birth date is, and none of them understands what he is trying to mean. But according to him, it is to know who is the oldest, the youngest, or if all of them are in the same age group. He only wanted to socialize, but they end up getting very angry at the boy. While Nico takes a bath, she begins to think about how he, being a teenager who lives with three beautiful girls, still acts in such a silly manner. Just then, she hears a shout, so she goes running and runs into Yu, stating that he forgot to buy the morning bread. She tells him not to shout because of a piece of nonsense like that, but Yu sees her in bath clothes and says that she is going to catch a cold. And because of that, she becomes embarrassed and runs away. But on the way, she bumps into Miwa, who looks her directly in the eyes and asks why she is so red. It has not even been that long since she entered the bath, so this is quite strange. They acted with normality when they saw her in a towel, but why now? Nico then tells her not to keep thinking too much about it. Then Yu arrives to deliver some towels to Miwa, and she gets quite happy because they are clean and was about to take them. But their hands touched and she became highly embarrassed. She acted in a very impulsive manner, and Yu himself paid the consequences for her action. In return, Nico takes the opportunity to get revenge, stating that now she is the one who is red, and whispers, asking if by chance she is also secretly in love with the newcomer. Miwa gets quite surprised upon hearing the word also, and those two begin to tease one another. And it is just like I said, Nico has already fallen in love with Yu since episode 1. At that moment, Kazuki arrived, telling them to behave like people their age, and Yu takes the opportunity to ask her to help him put away a pot where he cannot reach, since the girl is quite tall. As she is in a good mood, she does it. But when Yu thanks her from the bottom of his heart, she cannot avoid blushing deeply, and her sisters stand there looking at her astounded, and she asks why they are looking at her in that manner. And because of that, the three embarrassed girls begin to fight. Yu ends up intervening, stating that he does not know why they are fighting, but that they need to get along better, and this irritates them, and they leave, while he stays behind cleaning the place, because once again it turned into a mess. He thinks that this is definitely going to be more complicated than he expected, but he also does not feel like it is going to be impossible. Just then, he looks at a photo of the three of them when they were little, and he gets quite happy to see how adorable they were. The three of them looked like little angels who got along very well. and he wonders how they passed from that to the devils they are nowadays. He goes to ask them whose photo it is, and none of them accepts that it is hers, and because of that, he reaches the conclusion that they are lying. There must be at least one of the three who wanted to go back to that time from before, and he thinks that all this time he wanted to forge a bond with them, but in reality, he should try to restore the bond that the three of them lost. That is why he cheered up to try on the following day. And coincidentally, on the weekend, all of them had things to do, and were going to disappear for a little while. But being at school and reviewing the schedule of each one of them, he realized something. That is why at night he prepared hot milk, so that they could sleep better. While we see how Miwa and Nico complain about not having reserved a room in time. But Yu appears as the savior of the day, stating not to worry, as he has already reserved a hotel for each one of them, and he is certain that they will be to everyone's liking. Miwa does not believe that it will be that way, because she will not feel very well being afraid of the food at that hotel. The others in their minds think the same. Yu tells her that then she is saying that she is going to miss his food, and she becomes highly embarrassed, and the other two get glad for not having said anything, because they thought the same. A short time later, we see Miwa intensely playing her shogi mat, and she does not hesitate for even a second to counterattack. The woman observing her thinks that her genius knows no bound, and when they finish, she proceeds to say that it was a great duel. Miwa, in the same manner, expresses her gratitude and leaves, and on the way, she thinks that she has to start training when she arrives at the hotel. But she runs into a truly precious landscape, something that brings back beautiful recollections to her. However, according to her, it no longer matters much. And when she arrives at the hotel, she hears someone being called Mikadono, and notices that it is Kazuki. Immediately, she asks what the girl is doing there, but Kazuki asks what she herself is doing there. And right after that, Nico arrives and asks what they are doing. Suddenly, another one arrives, who is Yu. He appears behind her, asking how it is possible that they did not know where their sisters would go, advising that they should converse more frequently, and all of them get impressed upon seeing him there, even more so when they hear that he reserved the exact same room for the three of them. According to Yu, all of their events were very close to that place. Therefore, it created the perfect opportunity for them to be able to socialize like the sisters they are. None of them is in agreement with this, but they ask why he is there. And according to Yu, soon there is going to be an evening cherry blossom festival, so he will be the director and will take charge of guiding them. By pure coincidence, it is the same festival that was in that photo from before, of the little girls. From his heart, he believes that one of them will have to want to go to this festival, but the three of them are furious with him, and all of them are super busy, and have no time for his nonsense. Therefore, he tries to convince them, stating that in this event, there is a place where you can have a lot of luck, which is perfect for competitive people. Although according to Nico, this is for losers. Real winners dedicate themselves and train to give all their effort daily. So Yu pulls out his best card to convince them, showing that a mountain of competitors and prodigies from different other countries. They took some time to attend these places, regardless of whether they believe in this kind of thing or not. He believes that they do this in order to be able to relax a bit more, because stressing out all the time will not help them achieve their best form either. All of them had doubts, but the one who took the first step was Kazuki. Her sisters ask if she was sure, and she states that in any case, it is a good way to post photos on social media. And it is true, but since he does not want her sisters to go dressed in such a simple manner, Yu ends up taking them to a kimono rental shop, and the guy knows his stuff. The lady at the shop recognizes them immediately, as they are the Mikadono sisters, who possess an unparalleled beauty. The first to get dressed obviously is Kazuki, who comes out beautiful, and so Yu begins to take a bunch of photos of her. She wears a rather sober and elegant kimono, which matches her cold personality quite well. Then Miwa comes out wearing a very lovely kimono, with kitten prints, because it also matches her crazier personality. The one who was truly quite reluctant was Nico, who is the tsundere of the matter. She was acting in a very displeased manner, and was saying all the time that she did not want to dress up at all. Yu evidently tried to convince her, but according to her, she will look very strange in the kimono. It is for that reason that one of the ladies at the shop approached, stating that this blue attire would look perfect on her, since she is a rather strong and audacious woman. This brought back bad memories for Nico. There was a day when she was delighted by a very feminine and lovely outfit, but her wretched father offered the poor girl a pair of trousers instead, since she is very masculine. And now I understand why she is so displeased with that thing that he gave her. But Yu also had his own choice, a pink fabric with rather beautiful flowers, and her sisters mocked him, because they thought that it did not match Nico, which once again discouraged her. But Yu does not think that way. To him, she is someone rather beautiful and tender, and due to this, they give her the option to choose which one she is going to wear. She ended up taking a bit of time in the fitting room, but the wait was worth every second. She comes out dressed with an enchanting present, practically a princess, and they are marveled, making it very clear who was right in this lesson. With the preparations made, they head straight to the festival. In the same place, not even a single second passes, and Kazuki already has a mountain of women around her. It is for that reason, not for nothing, that she is the star of a theater group. These girls shower her with compliments, stating that she is wonderful. But Yu is quite uncomfortable, because he wanted her to enjoy it along with her sisters. Meanwhile, Nico and Miwa are already enjoying the festival, and Kazuki catches a quick glimpse of this, with a little bit of jealousy. Her sisters waste no time and go look for a more fun place. And in the little group of girls who adore Kazuki, one of them is quite irritated. She does not understand why they fawn over her so much. After all, she is a woman. But by accident, she ends up tripping, and Kazuki catches her like a little princess, leaving the girl marveled, stating that now she understands everything. Kazuki wants to carry her to a place where she can sit down. And while Yu tries to follow her from behind, when they finally leave Kazuki's new admirer, the young woman tries to withdraw, but a hand appears and takes her away. And evidently it was Yu. They wait a moment for the rest of the fans to leave. Yu evidently offered food to her, although Kazuki is very irritated, but Yu also noticed that she was walking with much more care than usual, and for that reason, he brought a bandage, since surely her feet are hurt. Kazuki calls this disgusting, since he was following her, but Yu tells her to think whatever she pleases, and he goes, holds her foot, and realizes that in reality, she is quite hurt. Yu tries to say that even while acting like her usual prince self, she could have asked for help, but to her, the idea of a heroic prince needing help is ridiculous, and a nobody like him would not understand. But Yu does not care about that. He thinks that the prince also has the right to be the princess sometimes, and it might sound like a very strange phrase, but the point is clear. There is absolutely no problem with her asking for help. Therefore, as is already custom, even though she is a bit embarrassed, she ends up listening to what he says. At the same time, Miwa plays with Nico to try to catch goldfish, but Miwa mocks her sister, stating that she looks like a bear trying to capture them. And just then, Yu arrives along with Kazuki, causing both of them to be surprised, because he is wearing a horrible mask. Yu thinks that it would be fun to play in teams, to see who can catch more goldfish, and so he forms a duo with Kazuki, and the two sisters play together on the other team. Miwa also mocks Kazuki, stating that with that mask she is no longer as scary as before, which causes a bit of amusement in everyone. In the end, everyone is horrible at the game, except for Miwa. Because of this, the two accuse the poor thing of cheating. Obviously, the girl gets quite irritated, and once again, the three of them begin to fight, making Yu realize that they take everything far too seriously. And because of that, he ends up leaving them there alone for a little while he is thinking of another idea. He went exactly to the same attraction where the three sisters played when they were children, so that in this manner, he can manage to recreate the photo that they took, and he needs to obtain the prize. Basically, he is going to have to reach the objective, which is something similar to a door. When he succeeds, they will permit him to take the photo with a sort of statue. And so he thinks that if he manages this, they will be able to remember that beautiful moment from their childhood. And leaping until reaching there already seems like something quite complicated. But in addition to all that, some leaves break. It is then that Yu needs to be very astute in order to be able to find the correct path. In reality, it is so difficult that the creators of this challenge find amusement in the situation, given that the only ones who achieved this had been three little sisters from that time, who reached that door as if it were nothing. When Yu's turn arrives, evidently he fails on the first attempt, and all the other more sensible participants saw that it is far too difficult, and decided to just leave. In return, Yu wants to keep trying, and they permit it, although the rest of the people mock him, because he is only dirtying his beautiful face with pure mud. It even begins to rain, but Yu does not stop for anything. The guy is simply unstoppable. The organizers are even starting to feel pity for him because of this. They are feeling so guilty that they want to permit him to take the photo, even without completing the challenge. But Yu remains focused on achieving it on his own. Yu thinks that surely at that time, the one who found the most suitable path to do this was Miwa. The one who used her own body to be able to carry them certainly was Nico. And lastly, the one who was observing everything in detail to follow them and care for them was Kazuki. In this manner, the three of them succeeded. They combined their virtues and were able to achieve something incredible. And based on that, he decides to look for his own path. Without surrendering, he begins to leap, one time after another. And after so many failures, he finally reached the door. Obviously, the organizers even shouted with joy when he succeeded. Yu asked for them to wait for him to fetch the other three. But due to the state of the weather, the evening cherry blossom festival was ending earlier. Seeing that everything was closed made Yu feel very bad. He believes that once again he was selfish. He forced all of them to come, even when they were so busy and against the idea, to, in the end, leave them stranded. To him, surely the three young women had already returned to the hotel. After all, he intruded where he should not have. Their relationship is something personal, and he, as a stranger, entered their house suddenly to try to intervene, which begins to bring a weight to his conscience. But when he closed his eyes to rest for a moment, he felt that the rain stopped. It turns out that above him, the three of them were looking at him intently. All of them were relieved upon finding him, but began to complain right after, because he left them alone. Yu really thought that they had left. Kazuki answers that they are not that soulless. Furthermore, since he is their guide at this festival, he also has to take them back. And Nico apologizes because all the umbrellas had sold out, and he is going to have to be without any. But she was about to tell him that she would let him enter hers. But the three of them shouted the exact same thing at the same time. When they arrive at the hotel, they are taking a bath, and Nico begins to think seriously about what just happened. Because although the three of them were embarrassed, Kazuki kept wanting to share the umbrella with Yu. Due to this, they played rock, paper, scissors, and the one who ended up winning was Nico. She herself explains to us that when she was with him, she walked peacefully, but her heart beat as if she were in a marathon. However, while they were in this situation, Yu believed that he was the punishment of that game they played. Thinking about this, she began to make funny gestures and movements in the bathroom, and her sisters evidently saw her and became quite impacted, believing that their little sister finally wants to become a woman. When they come out, they run into Yu, who only waited for them to give support for the following day. However, they see him excessively worn out. The boy is exhausted, and they ask why he has not taken a bath yet. And he then realizes that he was reserving their rooms, and by accident he forgot to reserve his own. Consequently, he thought about spending the night at some cyber cafe or something of the sort. To the three of them, this guy is unbelievably idiotic. And once again, no matter how great the annoyance was, the one who took the first step was Kazuki. She acts like a responsible adult and permitted him to stay in their room with the others. Once again, this saddens Yu because he is feeling as though he were a dead weight, since he wanted the three of them to share a normal sister's night, and that is all. Seeing the situation in this manner, all of them justify themselves by stating that this is the normal thing to do. To Kazuki, it is like not leaving an abandoned kitten outside at night in the rain. To Nico, leaving him alone would be a disgrace to martial arts. And Miwa, she uses her logic. The four of them already live together anyway, so the strange thing would be to leave him outside. And Yu asks for forgiveness from his heart, promising that he will try not to get in the way. However, as soon as he tries to find a bathrobe to be able to go take a shower, he trips over Kazuki. The two end up staying quite close. And there, they remember that the three of them have already used the bathrobes, so probably there is not another one left. That is why Miwa tries to help search for one, and once again Yu gets very close by accident, trying to find the clothing. Where Nico was, she thus managed to find one, but also ended up getting far too close to him, causing the three of them to become highly embarrassed because in that room, there is no space for four. Any movement they make, they are already close to one another. It is then that Yu goes to take his shower, and he asks for them to please forget that he is there and begin to rest. But this is impossible for all of them. The three demonstrate a lot of sensitivity and affection, and do not fail to get nervous because of the innocence they possess. Although, once again, they try to disguise what they are feeling. Nico simply thinks that it is the adrenaline because of tomorrow's fight, and the same thing happens with Miwa and with Kazuki. Yu, on the other side, is very glad because he did fulfill his objective of today, since he could recreate that photo that he wanted so much. In the beginning, all of them were tense, but if they did not make the pose, he would not stop insisting. At that moment, by accident, a bunch of cold water ended up falling on top of Yu, and he acted in a very idiotic manner. And in this way, he could extract a smile from the girls, obtaining a photo as beautiful as the one from before. But when he begins to search for this same photo that we are talking about, he sees that it is nowhere to be found. He searches literally everywhere. He then runs into a note that fell into a book, and in it was written that she simply recovered what was hers. In other words, the photo returned to its former owner. To him, this is the correct thing. Consequently, in every manner he feels relieved, and ends up falling asleep as if nothing had happened. In return, the other three end up noticing that he snores quite a lot, and get quite irritated with that. And they notice that everyone is awake, and again pretend that nothing happened there. But they begin to converse among themselves, since it was a very lively and peculiar day. Furthermore, to Kazuki, Yu was someone quite unique. She does not understand why he chose a flower kimono. For Nico, however, she is quite happy with that, given that it looked very beautiful on her. Furthermore, this type of thing pleased Nico very much when she was a child, and Nico did not expect to hear that, so she becomes highly embarrassed and teases her back, stating that Kazuki always acts toward her fans as if she were a grand superstar. But on this day, she truly enjoyed herself, the same way she used to do when she was a child, since she ran here and there trying to catch those little fish. And Miwa mocks what they are saying, and the two mock her back. All this conversation brings to light a mountain of memories about the festivals they participated in, and enjoyed themselves quite a lot when they were children. And in fact, Nico reveals something quite interesting. When she was little, Kazuki helped at the stalls to obtain prizes because, if she did not do so, she would begin to cry. They feel a lot of shame and place the blame on Yu, because they have already realized what he was trying to achieve there. But it continues to be strange, and they do not know the reason for him to do this, given that he is only a stranger to them. Here we see for a moment that Miwa was the owner of this photo, and looking at them, she begins to remember how Yu exerted himself at every moment to fulfill this mission. He looks like a complete fool, but manages to extract a very sincere smile from her. In reality, all of them feel that way in their mind, and thank him for this wonderful day. Right after, on the television, Yu sees how they completely dominated their respective championships. Thus, although he fooled around the entire night, they definitely are prodigies. Finally, a very interesting fact. It is that when Yu got lost, the three of them tried to look for him by any means. They were going to create a notice on social media so that people would help them. And with that, they had to include descriptions. But Kazuki only mentioned his physical characteristics in such a way that there was nothing else that highlighted him particularly. Her sisters teased her because of that, and Kazuki retorts, stating that in reality, his most beautiful characteristic trait is when he smiles honestly. But she cannot believe that the girls have never seen him that way. And Miwa states that he is also very kind to her, and that during the night he usually delivers some snacks and delicious things for her to eat, something that they will never taste on account of their highly restricted diet. Nico does not lag behind, and states that in reality when she runs out of bandages, or lacks protein, the one who buys it is him. Thus he shows himself to be a very attentive person, and one who considers her greatly. It is then that the three of them notice what they just said, and become highly embarrassed once again, so they prefer to just look for him on their own. Although everything was going quite strangely between the sisters, they begin to get along. They helped each one another, and conversed in a very natural manner. Life is not a fairy tale. But on any normal day, when Yu was returning home, he ran into the fact that the girls had arrived earlier. But that was not all. When he entered, he noticed that the three sisters were standing before their father, that is to say, Mr. Mikadono. When he sees Yu, he says hello to the boy, and in this way Yu can recognize him and gets quite happy. He introduces himself once more, and expresses his gratitude for welcoming him into his home. Once again, this gentleman makes a very uncomfortable emphasis. He then says one more time that it is a pity that his mother passed away, but that he has nothing to worry about. He will take care of him so that this talent does not get lost while he grows. Following that, he asks his daughters how they are doing, but he does not do this in a very good manner. And the three of them look like soldiers, stating that they fulfilled their objectives in a perfect manner, and that they do not intend to slow down their pace. Upon hearing this, Mr. Mikadono demonstrates no concern, and states that he is going to withdraw. But Yu does not acquiesce, and wants to invite him to have dinner with the others. But Mr. Mikadono notices a mask and asks what it is. Yu, in a very innocent manner and without filters, relates that they went to the festival, exactly to the same one they went to when they were children, and that they enjoyed themselves quite a lot. Mr. Mikadono then covers himself with the mask and asks why he obstructs his daughter's growth. And in an innocent manner, Yu relates that at that festival there was a shrine that gave luck to competitors and that it was perfect for them. And this did not please Mr. Mikadono in the slightest. It seems like an absurdity to pray to have a bit of luck, since to him, you yourself can create it with your own hands. He raised his daughters so that they would be strong and implacable. He does not want his daughters to mix six with someone with such a weak mentality. He relates that he investigated his background a bit and saw nothing worthy of mention. In theory, he is the son of the absurd actress Subaru Ayase, but to his eyes right now, he is just any slacker. Then he approaches Yu and whispers that in this house, mediocre people are not welcome, and it is precisely there that his daughters interrupt him. All of them begin to defend him with tooth and nail, and state that yes, it is true, that he is an idiot, has no talent, is no good for school, nor for fighting, nor for anything. And the boy is not even going to be a grand star. But even so, he gives food to everyone every single day, cleans the house, takes care of them, and helps them to improve their talents daily, which once again irritates Mr. Mikadono, and he asks since when they need a stranger so much. This causes all of them to become embarrassed at the same time, and they try to defend themselves. But Mr. Mikadono states that he feels very sorry for the memory of the deceased Subaru, but he believes that her son is incompatible with them, since according to him, the boy is not going to help them grow. And then all of them call Yu a newcomer. But so that their argument has more strength, they affirm that they are compatible with Yu, and this moves the young man quite a lot. But to him, this continues to be completely indifferent, and for that reason, he then demands that they demonstrate better results than up until now, because they are no longer little children to go around socializing and making little friends. Having said this, the gentleman withdraws, and when this conversation ends, all of them leave very discouraged, because now they have to exert themselves twice as much. Lamenting greatly, they will no longer have time to eat what Yu prepares for them. And since then, a week does pass, and his relationship with the girls went down the drain. It looks very similar to the first time he arrived at this place, and with the visit of Mr. Mikadono, he understood something. The ferocity that all of them have to achieve their goals and improve more every day. It comes from the pressure that their father exerts. It is true that Mr. Mikadono is someone who is quite upright, and he is a very professional person. But his daughters did not seem happy at all being near him. For their part, the girls are evidently putting in a lot of effort. Nico gives everything of herself in her training, but this worries her friends in a certain way, given that a short time ago she was even returning home earlier. But now, once again, she is practicing until very late. When she finally feels tired, she decides to eat something. And it is exactly the same thing she used to eat before meeting Yu. But now this food does not seem to have much taste. With Kazuki, the same thing happened. After the practical classes, she went to drink the juice that she drank daily without any problem. But now she does not even feel like drinking it anymore. As for Miwa, she has loved sweets since she can remember. But also right now they are tasteless. At that moment, she remembers when Yu gave her some sweets, and it was something totally different. This is also shared by her sisters, because the absence of that routine makes everything seem flavorless, lifeless, and the nights seem empty and the days too long. For his part, Yu is really feeling what Mr. Mikadono said to him. He begins to think that what he said is true. He wanted all the time to make everyone feel like a united family, to play a little, to do silly things like normal people. But this only demonstrates how mediocre his thinking is. However, it is here when he again remembers his mother and her desire to have a normal family that he gains strength to understand that he has to keep putting effort into this at least. The next day the girls go to school and Yu does not say goodbye to them. They feel a little bit bad. But when Nico is at school and is eating as she habitually does, her friends tease her for eating the same as always. She says that it is all that she needs. Furthermore, it has her protein and she was going to show it. But upon opening her bag, she came across a beautiful lunch. This lunch was made by the brave Yu, and her friends say that it is very beautiful, and she, blushing, knows very well who made it. Miwa and Kazuki are in the same situation. It is a little awkward, but it is adorable to see how he does not give up. Nico, quite moved by the situation, pretends that she is annoyed, because leaving aside her stomach, Right now she feels her heart so full that she could not even take a single bite. And later, Yu knew that having to wake up at 4 in the morning to do this was completely worth it. But at that moment, the girls call him, saying that they are going to form a cooperation. Kazuki remembers that her father warned her about the fact that if he did not show results, they were going to send him away from there. That is why the three of them are willing to accept him as one of them. Kazuki has a very complicated audition. Nico is already going to fight in another tournament, and Miwa has a match for the shogi title. Thus, the three of them count on him so that he can be their support. This moves him quite a lot, because he feels as if he were in a family. Although he is just a support, it is thus that on the next day he gives the lunches to each one, and he goes back to saying goodbye to them as always, which makes them immensely happy. Later, we see that Kazuki has trouble appearing feminine, and this bothers her a little. Nico, for her part, when she was training, received a phone call from someone. This was Tatsumi, saying that she is in full form, and that he just returned a short time ago from an international tour. Therefore, he is enthusiastic, and he wants to see very much how much she improved in the next tournament. This leaves her very excited. And as for Miwa, she is playing shogi with an old gentleman, whom she defeated very easily. This same gentleman asks Miwa if she has already made up her mind, since soon she will have to decide the path she wants to follow, something that seems to hover in her mind. As we can see, the three of them are pressured in a quite horrible way by the expectations of people, including their father. But when they arrive home and see Yu doing silly things, only to fall right after, immediately all the pressure and tension of the day goes away from one moment to the next. Taking advantage of the fact that they arrived earlier than usual, they decide to eat all together, which leaves Yu quite happy. Thus, he begins to serve the dishes to everyone. This time it is udon, a dish that in reality has its complexity. That is why Nico asks where he learned to cook that way. But her true doubt lies in why he makes everything look so good, only to later have a homemade and simple flavor. This is something that none of them had dared to say, but in reality everyone thinks the same. This reminds them of their father, warning them that mediocrity is evil, and that none of them should fall near that game. But they would never think that something so simple could be so delicious at the same time. For a change, Kazuki wants to help Yu wash the dishes after eating, which impacts him quite a lot. But according to her, she does this so she can work on her feminine side. Although for Yu this is incorrect, because both men and women can wash dishes, so that each one should take care of their own things and maintain cleanliness together. More and more, Yu asks her how she feels regarding her new role, and she opens up sincerely. She says that in reality she is extremely nervous about it, since she is about to face something that normally is not part of her own nature. However, when she arrived home, all her nervousness vanished suddenly. Thus, she thinks that everything will be fine, although she clarifies to him that it is not because of him. But in reality, everyone knows that it is. At that moment, she also notices that Yu has bandages on his fingers, and asks what happened, because she thought that he was skilled in the kitchen. But in truth, it is not quite like that. He even burned himself with a pot, because he forgot that it was hot. What happens is that this guy might be mediocre, but he does not give up easily. Something interesting is that because of this, he ended up buying plastic plates, since he wanted to avoid breaking the more valuable plates. And with plastic plates, it is impossible for Kazuki to break them, so she can also help him to wash. And precisely when he was about to move the plates, he fell. When Yu tells her that it started to bleed, she quickly wanted to see if he is okay, but accidentally slipped on some chopsticks, and they ended up kissing. Now all that is left is to set the wedding date. Yu becomes quite embarrassed, and begins to apologize like crazy. But Kazuki reacts with naturalness, saying that it was just an accident, that it was no big deal. Instead, she says she would like him to wipe his nose, and seeing how she handles the situation maturely, makes Yu think probably she is already used to doing these things on stage. Although in the same way he feels a bit of embarrassment. Besides, he also becomes quite sad, since his first kiss tasted like blood. The next day, Kazuki could not stop coming across things that reminded her of that fateful scene. She felt bad even seeing a simple popsicle, since it reminded her of his lips, and so she decided to lock herself in her room. But precisely at that moment, Yu ended up arriving. The poor guy wanted to clarify things, and asked for forgiveness for having ended up kissing her. But he understands that she does not want to remember this, and so he asks her to pretend that nothing happened. And then Yu withdraws. And being alone, Kazuki becomes very nervous, because to him, that meant nothing. And at this rate, she is going to end up killing the boy. However, On the next day, she thinks objectively, and believes that she must not think about it now, for she has before her a very complex goal. She also needs to shine in feminine roles, otherwise, she will end up labeled in a stereotype. And a true prodigy must interpret anything. That is why Kazuki decides to look for ways to improve, since alone she is not achieving good results, and she decides to observe how her cast partner acted. She has tears in her eyes and a very cute voice, but precisely they were in a kiss scene, and this reminded her of you once again, and so she becomes embarrassed again. Her master was impressed because she broke character, and this almost never happens. Therefore, she warns that what she does in her private life also repercussions quite a lot in her acting. But this also gives an idea to our dear Kazuki. Due to this, when she arrives at the house and sees Yu, she speaks normally for about a minute, but then asks if he is free on Sunday. Yu says yes. By coincidence, he does not have much to do on that day, so she takes the opportunity to corner him. She asks for them to go out on a date, just the two of them alone. What she did not expect is that all of this was heard by her hidden sisters, since there is not much privacy in that house, so it is obvious that the two of them cannot believe it. But they prefer to go to their room before it gets worse. As for Yu, he does not understand any of this either, and for that same reason, Kazuki explains that she wants to do all this because of her role. Thanks to the advice that her teacher gave her, she wants to try to do more feminine things to be able to perform her acting well. And Yu realizes that she is just acting like a prince. She always carries herself wonderfully well, so she wants to train to achieve roles beyond that. In this way, he also wants to see how far she can go, and therefore decides to accept. Kazuki wants him to keep this a secret, and he ends up agreeing. Of course, she also does not want this to generate a misunderstanding in any way, and this to Yu is seen quite obvious. Although, of course, they are going to have a date where she awakens her most feminine side. He will have to speed up her heart in many ways. That is why he says he is going to prepare something absurd, making Kazuki unable to even respond to this. And the next morning everything is normal. Yu is cleaning the house, and Nico ends up approaching him, asking out of curiosity if he is free on Sunday, the same day as his date. But Yu says no, that he has nothing to do, so he lied straight to her face, and Nico was shocked. With this, the poor girl begins to have very silly thoughts, and as for Miwa, the poor thing is defeated. On that day, she could not avoid overhearing when Yu told Kazuki that he was going to give her the best date ever, and in her mind, she cannot imagine what nonsense they are going to do. That is why there is a very strange atmosphere in the house, and as Yu begins to exchange signals with Kazuki, the two of them get even more nervous. That said, finally, the day of their date arrived, and Yu is waiting for Kazuki. He is quite calm, while the other two followed them to see what they are going to do, since neither would be able to concentrate on their tasks because of them. Although neither of them came very well dressed for the occasion, both see how Yu is very excited on this day, which leaves them quite irritated. Besides, they cannot believe that Kazuki is having a date with a man. And speaking of the devil, Kazuki arrives there with the wig, and with a very feminine appearance. She ends up greeting Yu as usual, but since she has to act in a more feminine way, she slaps herself, and ended up greeting him, apologizing for making him wait. Thus, her sisters in the background are about to have a heart attack, because this is not normal at all. As Kazuki plans to act in a more feminine way all day, she calls Yu by his name, which makes him extremely happy. Then they set off for their date, for which Yu, as usual, goes very well prepared. And it well seems easy, but it is not. Kazuki is well used since she was little to behaving like a prince, and since Yu precisely seems very feminine, it constantly makes her behave like a knight. At a certain moment in an attraction at an aquarium, this becomes very clear when they are there. The dolphins were doing dolphin things, but they ended up accidentally splashing water on the public. For that very reason, Kazuki involuntarily placed herself to protect Yu. In fact, when the public sees them, they laugh because his girlfriend is quite brilliant, and even looks like a hero. And the same happens in all other places, whether eating or carrying things. In whatever they are doing, Kazuki always stands out as a perfect prince. That is why when Yu goes to the bathroom, she begins to reflect on the fact that maybe this is something she will not achieve. But in these thoughts, an old gentleman approaches her. He reveals himself to be a model agent and insists on recruiting her, because she is quite attractive. Obviously, Kazuki wanted to send him to the middle of nowhere, but she needed to contain herself. And when he began to insist a lot, Yu appeared, who immediately pushed them apart. He said that Kazuki already has clear what she wants to be, and so he can just withdraw. But he does not have much ears for Yu, since he is not scary at all. and in fact, the guy even thought he was the girl's younger brother. Furthermore, the sisters were mocking the whole time, since this date was not working out very well for them. Right now, you cannot invent excuses to be able to push this guy away once and for all. And because of that, he ends up saying that in reality, he is going to marry her. Thus, she cannot be any artist, and both in the future will be together smiling in good times and bad. This seemed very childish to the guy. He could not stop seeing him as a child. And Yu noticed this, but luckily the guy ended up getting tired, and he went away. But before everyone's eyes, this was like a declaration. And Yu told Kazuki to please ignore everything he just said. But I think it is already too late, huh my boy? She definitely cannot do that. Then Yu takes her by the hand, and he notices that the girl is quite hot, and decides to continue with the date anyway. On the other side, Miwa and Nico realize that the atmosphere just improved too much between these two. Besides, since Yu took her hand, he did not let go anymore. Thus, they go walking together everywhere, making people keep looking at them, because they are very cute together. They are like siblings. And this ends up destroying the ego of our poor Yu. But he understands that this time he is helping Kazuki so that she improves in her role. And for that reason, he decides to hold her very tight this time, and make everyone notice that they are a couple, which ends up embarrassing Kazuki quite a lot. On the inside, she is almost dying, but she notices that this is how a woman acts when she is nervous, and it is something that she wants to learn. So she ends up taking it more seriously, and she squeezes his hand back. Yu ends up blushing, while Miwa and Nico cannot believe what they are seeing. With this, they reach the movie theater, for they plan to see a very romantic movie. But the movie they will watch reminds Kazuki of something. In her own acting school, she had a former classmate who, just like her, was a great male actor. However, here she immersed herself in a totally feminine role, and it is a movie that Kazuki had a certain fear of seeing, more than anything because of the final result of the acting. And the sad thing is that these fears became reality. She notices how her friend did not act in the best way. Before, she was incredible playing male roles. In fact, she was much better acting as a man. But all those little quirks that she acquired, she ended up taking them to the movie as well. And leaving the cinema, people judged her harshly for not being feminine at all, nor beautiful at all, which once again reminded Kazuki of her father's words. A prodigy should be able to interpret anything, otherwise they will end up labeled in a role. All of this was bad until Yu noticed, and he feels bad because he made the whole situation worse. Her sisters, who also saw the same movie, did not know what Yu was going to do to recover from this tremendous blow. As they walked, the atmosphere was quite heavy, and very different from how they started. With this, we reach our last part of the date, which is the Ferris wheel. And usually it has nothing special. But this one in particular is very well known by people, since if a man or a woman goes up there, very probably they will end up being a couple, or someone will be sad. It is then that the three sisters, upon hearing this, get quite scared. But before Kazuki could refuse or complain, Yu took her with him, so inside she was extremely nervous in front of him. And Kazuki remembers how he said she would have an incredible date, but she feels that this is something quite excessive. Again, the actress starts to think that she needs to act for a feminine role, but it is just that since she was a child, she was always very tall for her age. She also loved having short hair and felt more comfortable with pants. She did not really enjoy wearing skirts. This made her quite different from other people, but it did not displease her either. She took advantage of her qualities to start modeling and joined the theater group when she was only 6 years old. She just did what she loved and ended up debuting in her first performance as a boy. But with time, this began to transform into an obligation, and when she realized it, she no longer had the right to refuse, for they taught her that a star that does not shine has no value at all. With this, she perceives that the best thing is to ignore the audition, and thus, she will no longer risk failing. However, upon opening her eyes, she notices how Yu is scared to death. Normally, he is not afraid of heights, but it is just that the floor is made of glass, so he cannot bear it. But he had to do this, since he wanted a perfect date. And according to the legend, if people declare themselves at the top of this Ferris wheel, they become boyfriend and girlfriend. So Kazuki becomes much more nervous. Yu then stands up and tells her that he wants her to be the best protagonist in the world, but he ends up biting his tongue in the process. And because of that, he sat back down before continuing to speak nonsense. Not enough with that, he made Kazuki see that in front of her, there is a living example of someone who fails constantly. Whenever he has an opportunity, the guy messes up, there is no way around it. Despite this, he keeps trying, which leaves her quite irritated, and she says that she does not like how she cannot handle a failure the way he does. Yu says that he has a talent for that, but he also says that failing has its good side. He approaches her and shows a lot of photos that he took during the date, specifically when she acted in a clumsy way. But even so, in each one of them, she looked very beautiful. As a matter of fact, Kazuki could not believe that that was herself. Yu says that it is true. There are people who will perhaps distance themselves from you if you fail, but even so, there are also people who end up falling in love with those little defects. She discourages the boy and tells him that those are just excuses, but he says yes. Sometimes, in fact, this serves to defend oneself. And on the other hand, he tells Kazuki that he hopes her audition goes very well. She was not really in the mood to do it anymore, since she did not want to fail. But with determination, she says that everything will go very well. And in this way, they finish the conversation, and they come down very happy from the Ferris wheel, smiling a lot. Miwa and Nico wonder what on earth happened up there. While they continue walking for a while, Kazuki thanks Yu for everything today. Lately, she felt very pressured to do everything they told her to do regarding the theme of acting, but today she can confirm that she can be free. Evidently, she will have her failure, but she knows that there will be people who will like her, with all of that included. Yu is even going to be one of those, and he is quite in agreement with this, and adds that if any day she feels insecure, she just has to remember today's date. This guy here is very brave, and ends up leaving her quite embarrassed. She hopes not to reach that point of depending on him, but evidently she said that more as a joke. Meanwhile, her sisters in the background are worried, since Kazuki is forming a very strong bond with Yu, and on the day of yesterday they did not get along that well. Nico even fears that they might behave the same way when they are at home, for she does not know what face she could make. The other two keep moving forward, and Kazuki keeps looking at Yu, since thanks to this mediocre endgame that always fails in everything, and disappoints everyone, she ended up changing her perspective of the world a little. That is why Kazuki turns around, looks in front of Yu, and approaches him. It seemed like they were about to kiss, and her sisters were crazy. But Kazuki approached only to whisper in his ear, saying that that kiss they gave, it is not something she can pretend did not happen, since it was her first kiss. Yu becomes totally enchanted and speechless, while Nico and Miwa want to know what on earth she just said to him. And at that moment, Kazuki takes off her wig, then shows her natural and radiant beauty right in front of Yu, to tell him that right now she is very excited and wants to go practice. It seems that she went back to behaving like always, and from afar, Miwa believed that. But Nico was not that certain. Something in Kazuki just changed. After a while, Yu returns home, quite in a hurry, and saying that he is going to make something for them to eat right away, to make it up to them. Meanwhile, Miwa and Nico ask what he was doing all day, but before they continue talking, Miwa and Nico welcome him at the same time, calling him by his name, something that leaves Yu quite moved. He did not expect that, and wants them to repeat it one more time, but that is a very normal greeting. But on the inside, both realize that they will also have the opportunity to receive his support, just like he did with Kazuki on this day. So they are very anxious for that, and thus time did its work, and the exam season arrived. And because of that, Yu and Nico put a lot of effort into studying. Kazuki chooses not to stress too much about it, and Miwa, well, Miwa is Miwa, she is extremely intelligent, so she is not going to have any problem with that. And because of that, her sisters mock Nico and Yu quite a lot, until they notice that they started to get together a lot, because they are studying mutually, until out of nowhere, a thief appeared, a poor woman who asks to please catch him. Yu, like every man, decides to do that, but he is very slow. However, it served as a distraction, so that Nico would appear right in front of him or knock him down with a kick. The guy even tries to resist, and she had to put in a little bit more effort. But what he did not expect is that the girl is absurdly good at combat, so she gave a beating to the guy, but she ended up a little hurt, although that did not matter to the spectators. Her sisters did not worry much either, because they fully trust the girl's strength, and the men worried about the other girl, who was quite feminine, and ended up leaving Nico aside, since she is the mikadono most talented in martial arts. But to Yu, none of that mattered. He approached her very worried, and began to take care of the girl. To Nico, he seems a bit exaggerated, but to Yu, she remains a woman. Even if she knows how to fight, she continues to be a delicate person, who can feel pain from something, or be afraid. And once again, our big boy here is approaching her heart, On the other side, the thief took advantage of the confusion to run away again. What he did not expect is that a student with a kick would leave him stretched out on the floor. Those who were observing also recognized this student. It seems that he has a certain fame in the midst of martial arts. The name of this guy is Tatsumi Hayato. And what happens is that Nico also knows him. And to Yu, it seems very unfair that besides knowing how to fight, he is handsome. But not only that, when Nico calls the subject, he approaches her and tells Nico that he came because of her. 3 hours later, we see that the academy of this guy is going to train for a week together with the Saika team. And we are talking about the fact that between these two, there are the best of the best at a global level. But Yu ended up infiltrating there as well. Nobody knows why he is there, but he went. And in reality, Yu ended up worrying about the girl, since that subject came because of Nico. And it happens that besides being someone quite skilled, they started at the same dojo when they were children. And because of that, Nico ends up having a lot of respect for him. And as we can see, Tatsumi is quite popular, something that deeply bothers the other team. At that, Nico approaches him to ask Tatsumi to train like in the old days. To him, it does not seem good at all, since now he is a man. And he grew up quite a lot. But Nico is quite stubborn, so they end up fighting. Although fighting is too big of a word for that, since she can do nothing against Tatsumi. This guy is very skilled, and she lost constantly to him, surprising all of her teammates. The poor thing wanted to keep practicing, but Yu ended up meddling there, since the girl was quite tired due to the blows she received. He even gets irritated with Tatsumi, because he does not know how to contain himself. Tatsumi, to begin with, just asks who on earth he is, and seeing how he is behaving, Nico decides to speak with Yu. First, she asks him not to look cross-eyed at Tatsumi, because he is like her hero. She says that when her father took her to her first dojo, she defeated all the male students way too fast, and because of that, in revenge, they wanted to corner her among several. But Tatsumi arrived and saved her. Unfortunately, their friendship did not advance much, because he had to move to another city. They did not see each other again until the national championship, and because of that, to her, Tatsumi is the source of her strength, something that ends up haunting Yu, for he never thought that she admired someone with such dedication. And speaking of the devil, Tatsumi ends up arriving with a quite impactful revelation. He tells Nico that now he understands her level. He believes that she can become stronger, but for that she would have to go to his academy, the academy in Wayama. According to him, she is already the best fighter in all of Saika. He tells her that he even spoke with her father, and he is in agreement with that if she wants to get stronger. Until a short time ago, this was a male academy, but precisely in this year, it became a co-ed academy, so she is being able to go there. Tatsumi believes that she reached a point where there is no one else who can help her, and this offends her teammate, because they always train together. But the reality is that nobody helps Nico to improve. All this time, it was she who taught things, but she herself learns nothing from them. Her teammates analyze the situation a little, and realize that he is right. All this time they were just a burden to Nico, which did not help her grow at all. And seeing that they are in agreement, Tatsumi asks Nico again what she thinks of the idea. Although in the moment we do not have the answer. And later, when classes end, Yu and Nico return home together. As some things remained in the air, Yu tells Nico that it is incredible that they tried to recruit her, and besides, a school as prestigious as Wayama. However, the only bad thing about all this is that Tatsumi did not even ask her opinion, and Nico justifies herself, saying that even if he thought or not about what she wanted, even so, it is a great honor. His academy is basically a boarding school, a place where they hire professionals to manage the diet and lifestyle of the student, something that in fact is perfect for her. That is why she begins to think, and admits that until a short time ago, for sure she would have said yes without even blinking. But now she thinks about her relationship with her sisters, and above all, she thinks about Yu. Therefore, although it is something unusual for her, she tells Yu that she would like everyone to keep being together as always. And with that, there is a small silence, and the entire karate club appears, telling Nico that they also want to keep being together. But since they also want her to grow, the situation is quite complicated. Thus, they are willing to accept that she goes with that filthy rat of Tatsumi, as long as she becomes even greater. They just came to say that and then ran away. And to Nico, they are idiots. But Yu believes that it is very beautiful that they also want everyone to keep being together. Therefore, for sure they respect her quite a lot. With all this said, Yu enters because he wants to prepare dinner for them, although Nico seems to want to keep talking a little more. When they are eating, out of nowhere, Kazuki says to Nico that she can use her conditioner and her shampoo, which are extremely expensive. And the last time, she almost skinned the girl alive because she used them by accident. Miwa is also behaving in a quite strange way, and offers some food to the girl. And since it is precisely her favorite food, Nico gets quite frightened since she never shares that, even if they torture her. Thus, everything is very strange. While they wash the dishes, Yu says that in reality, the entire school knew that she was recruited, and it seems she is not the only one who wants them to stay together. And although these thoughts remain with her, there is one that is even more important. Nico is quite intrigued to know what Yu really feels, and what he really wants. She wants everyone to stay together, but he did not show the same interest. And on the next day, the karate club puts in a lot of effort, so that they can keep themselves at the level of Tatsumi's academy. Meanwhile, Nico approaches him, for she has the answer to his proposal, and he is quite anxious to hear it. But when he hears that she does not want to go, he becomes quite irritated. He does not want to accept a no for an answer, because it simply does not make sense. On the other hand, her teammates are super happy to know that she also wants to stay. But Tatsumi says straight to her face not to behave like someone without ambition. Still, Nico remains decided, which irritates Tatsumi once again. And as if he had authority over her, he says that after finishing the joint training, she must go with him. Finally, he is disappointed in her for not prioritizing her talent, for he believed she was something more than a normal girl. Those words began to touch Nico's heart, and for that very reason, Yu comes out of the closet, as if he were a damn stalker. Yu says that he clearly heard what she wants, and now he has also made a decision. He says to Tatsumi that according to his logic, Nico can stay at this school, as long as there is someone who makes her improve. Tatsumi says yes, and Yu places himself in front of him to deliver a duel letter. Poor Tatsumi asks why he is doing this stupidity, but Yu makes it clear that he is going to defeat him, since he also wants to be with Nico, and he will win this regardless. His actions melt everyone's hearts, including Nico's, but after thinking for 2 seconds, everyone is sure that this guy is going to die. And sincerely, one cannot blame them, because we are talking about the best karateka in the entire country. And on the other side, we have Yu, who is basically dead weight. The others try to have a little faith, because he is the son of Subaru Ayase, so he must have some hidden talent around there. Upon hearing this, Tatsumi says that in that case he is very sorry, but even if that is so, Nico will be his. Yu very politely told him to go to hell, that this will never happen. He said more or less that right there, guys. Poor Nico is in the middle of all this, and does not know what to do. The girl is quite embarrassed, since these two are fighting over her. Besides, Yu has no filter in what he usually says, so he ends up worsening the situation even more, since he makes Tatsumi end up accepting the fight, which will occur at the end of the joint training. But being relaxed at home, Nico also does not know what Yu intends to do. Definitely, he has no chance at all. And because of that, Nico wants to dedicate herself to training him as much as she can, since like it or not, her future depends on this idiot here, who definitely is going to have a quite complicated fight. Once again, this is basically an ant against the elephant, and the poor thing will end up crushed in a horrible way. While they were practicing, Yu approached a bit closer to Nico, so he ended up taking a quite strong blow. This made him stop to reflect, and the youth is conscious that he acted with impulsivity. But even if he is afraid, this will not stop him from fighting so that they stay together. And of course, he refers to the entire family, so he ended up destroying Nico's illusions. Now, as he risks his life so that everyone remains together, she is curious to know why Nico decided to stay with them as well. In this way, he corners her so that she gives an answer, and she ends up getting quite embarrassed, but says that yes, her teammates are important, but she also does not want to leave home, because she likes him saying goodbye to her every morning. And Yu was not expecting that one, so he became all red. Lastly, Nico also says that she is going to put in effort thanks to the fact that her sisters dedicate themselves quite a lot, and she does not want to stay behind. And speaking of those two, they were spying in secret, and do not even know what to think with everything they just heard, although they also know they have a quite complicated battle ahead. And because of that, Kazuki also wants to help Miwa, so she is going to give her moral support. And at 5 days from the combat, she sees that Yu is finding the training very difficult, but according to him, everything is under control. It happens that in the letter he delivered to Tatsumi, she can clearly see that it said that if he accepted, he was forbidden from using his hands and his dominant leg. Poor Tatsumi, without knowing that Yu is a simple failure, is quite irritated, and does not think about losing, nor containing himself before him. On the other side, since his sisters want to support him, they dressed up for the occasion. They put on a very beautiful apron, and they wanted to prepare some food for them so that everything would be easier. But what those girls cooked is closer to radioactive food made in Chernobyl than to something really edible. And look how both of them put in a lot of effort, since they wanted you to praise them. So they end up depressed when they see that they definitely cannot do anything. On the other hand, Yu suggests to the girls that he can teach them a little bit of cooking, because they are trying very hard, and he does not want all that effort to be in vain. Nico also encourages them in her own way, so they end up making another attempt. And thanks to the fact that both of them memorized the recipe, everything begins to look much simpler for them. Yu praises Kazuki, since she understands everything in a fast manner, certainly because she reads many scripts. On the other side, he gives advice to Miwa, so that she cuts better vegetables, and among the three, there is a very beautiful atmosphere. While Nico just observed, Yu ends up noticing that prodigies also put effort into something they do not master, so he does not want to stay behind either. Thus, after a while, they already have the food prepared, and precisely, it is about Nico's favorite dish. But she did not notice because it did not look like food at first. Nico tries it, and the others rejoice because it is delicious. And at that moment, Yu was going to eat, but he cannot, since from training so much, his hand does not even respond anymore, which ends up generating some doubts about how this training of his was. Be that as it may, Miwa is the very first one who jumps to give food into his mouth, and Yu feels shame. But seeing her so excited, he does not have much choice. Kazuki did not want to stay behind either, so she did the same. While Nico once again observes how her sisters act in a crazy way, but her sisters realize something. They, all this time, receive the gentle attention of Yu. However, being now the people who take care of him makes them feel quite good. And it is like this that at 3 days from the big confrontation, they continue being very attentive to him, something that begins to be quite irritating for Nico. And when we are already at 2 days from the fight, something unexpected happens, for we see how Hayato is constantly thinking about Nico. Although once again, he is only disappointed in her, since the girl does not want to be the strongest of all, even when in the past that was her only objective. And since life and the author are bastards, it makes these two bump into each other right at this moment, and our Nico treats him with respect. But the first words that come out of this idiot are to tell her that she became weaker. He is not even talking about her physical state, but in fact specifies that he talks about her heart and her mentality. Before, she would never have done this, but now, she resorts to the strength of others to make a decision. Not content with that, he still calls her pathetic, because she no longer even knows how to look like herself. And he still finishes by saying that when they see each other at Saika, he will have her run in his school. And although it should not be like that, this really stuck in Nico's head. That is why she apologizes to Yu when they are practicing, since all this happened only because she did not behave as usual, and it is because her whole life they emphasized to her that she should be the strongest, for that very thing was her talent. Due to this, her teammates began to deposit hopes in her. However, sometimes she feels forced by this. After all, she can also feel fear of fighting against someone bigger. But the girl also likes beautiful things. But from what they always told her, she cannot be feminine. And the most painful thing is that she began to listen to this, and lately has noticed that perhaps all this time, she has not been living for herself. She keeps apologizing to Yu for having dragged him into this, although according to him, he got into this by himself. Besides, he emphasizes that she always usually does things that supposedly do not match her personality. And well, Yu says that probably, when he met her for the first time, he thought she was an ogre or something of the sort. But in truth, she is a very formal young lady. She is someone beautiful, who even takes time to admire a flower. But this embarrasses her quite a lot, so she shouts at him to shut up. Yu apologizes, but it is just that he liked seeing this new facet of her. Once again, Nico thinks that all this seems very strange to her, but it is not true. Yu makes it clear that all those facets are what shape her in reality. There is no right or wrong facet. It is simply Nico being Nico. A strong woman who sometimes is vulnerable. That is the reality. And also, it makes her quite charming. With this, Nico embarrasses herself once more and gives a punch to him. But she says that he is the only one who could say that about her. The poor thing continues feeling a bit undecided, because it remains true that he is fighting for her. And so she has a brilliant idea, and tells Yu for the two of them to fight against him. This is something quite cowardly, but he says he had already thought of something like that. And with this, officially we reach the day of the confrontation. But their bad luck was that it fell on a day where Kazuki and Miwa were being responsible with their obligations. But even so, both were very worried about their little sister. And meanwhile, the crowd was already making an absurd noise, because the fight was already about to begin. But before anything else, Yu asked for something else from Tatsumi. We then see the two standing in front of him, and because of that, he asks if by any chance he is wanting more advantage. Yu, without any shame, says yes, and proposes 2 combats, where if one of the two wins against him, he will have to forget the idea of taking Nico. Practically, he wants to win no matter what. But this does not bother Tatsumi, so he ends up accepting. Yu ended up recording this conversation as a precaution. Then everyone looks and judges him a lot, because he looks more like a villain. Even Nico says that he is crossing the line. But this does not bother Yu. The guy has an objective, and he is going to get there no matter what happens. If he needs to be a villain to protect her, then so be it. As Tatsumi is the best karate fighter in high school, Yu plans to tire him as much as he can. Basically, he is going to serve as a sacrifice so that she can win. And with this in mind, the first combat begins. But before leaving, Nico notices that Yu in reality is quite nervous, and for that reason she approaches and takes him by his hand in front of everyone. She stays in silence for a few seconds and just asks him not to be afraid. It seemed like she was going to say something more, so Yu kept waiting, but she ended up getting embarrassed and stopped right there. Thus, they sent him to fight right after. And after telling him to put in a lot of effort like a soldier, Yu complies with the order. He places himself in front of Tatsumi. Tatsumi swears to another partner he has in front of him that he will take Nico anyway. And Yu says that he can bark as much as he wants, but he is not going to do that. No, he is going to show the fruits of the work he did with Nico. And 3 short minutes later, we see our protagonist all broken on the floor. And being quite honest, nobody expected him to last much anyway. And right after, the poor guy goes with his tail between his legs to apologize to Nico for not having tired him enough. Even so, she values the fact that he really put in effort during a week. And even though a week ago, he had also wiped the floor with her. Right now, she notices a big difference. She has something to lose. She thinks of her family and feels really scared. But Yu, in contrast, says goodbye to her just as he always used to do in the mornings, wishing her a great day. These are quite simple but powerful words for someone like her. That is why she calms down and realizes that she needs to fight once more. In this way, the confrontation begins, where Nico advances with a good blow at the beginning. With her speed and precision, she manages to pressure Tatsumi constantly. But all of this is quite strange, since Tatsumi is just defending himself as if he knew the perfect moment to attack. And in fact, it is precisely what he does. With a strong blow, he makes Nico lose her breath. She for a moment thought she knew Tatsumi, but it seems that this is not the reality. And on the other side, Tatsumi really knows her perfectly, at least in the sense of the fight. For since childhood, he has been observing how she delivers each blow. He practically knows how each one of her attacks is going to be, and the subject ends up cornering her easily. And now only 1 point is left to win. And Nico already knows that she cannot do it. Tatsumi asks for her to please stop once and for all, because he cannot stand seeing her like any random loser. This obviously weighs on her, because she is seeing herself as a loser in front of everyone. This had never happened before, and just when she was thinking about surrendering, there is Yu shouting for her to keep fighting. Yu forced everyone from his group to act in this way, as cheerleaders, and poor Nico, between embarrassment and astonishment, does not even know what to think about it. Here she remembers that he always has this quite silly attitude the whole time, even during the trainings, but this always pulls a smile from her, something that also had never happened to her in a combat. But she no longer fights with this part of herself anymore. Quite the contrary, she embraces it. And for that reason, she has an idea. When the combat starts, it seems that the fight goes exactly as always, but there is something different. And Tatsumi notices this. He notices how she moves, and believes that it will be easy to defend the first blow. But Nico made a feint for the first time fighting, and gave a good kick. Tatsumi does not realize this, so he keeps defending himself as always, but he cannot do that very well. Yu is quite happy, since this is the Nico he knows. But for Nico's teammates, it is not quite like that. It happens that Nico always restricted herself a lot to the rules of everything. She is a very rigid and formal person, and she would never have made a feint. Not enough with that, Yu does not listen to them, and just notices that she is smiling during the fight. And she did it so well that she tied Tatsumi's score. It is at that moment that her sisters arrived, agitated because they want to see how she is doing. And for his part, Tatsumi gets startled and asks why she is not herself. Nico, with a beautiful smile, says that she has never felt so much like herself, throwing him to the mat with a beautiful kick. The referee dictates the point and says that Nico managed to be the winner of this tournament. Thus, everyone begins to shout with emotion. Everyone is very moved and nobody knows what just happened, but they are very happy. Meanwhile, the people from the other school wonder, how on earth Tatsumi, the best karate fighter in high school, lost this combat? Nico relaxes, since she realized that she just won. She turns around to look at Yu, and gets so moved that she cannot contain her tears. Yu just approaches with the towel and welcomes her once again. He dries those tears, and congratulates her for her achievement. While on the side, the others are marveled, seeing how Nico is acting. Usually she would have gotten irritated saying that this is not herself, but she just leans on Yu's shoulder, and says that, for a change, she has the right to cry after a great victory, something that Yu understands completely. A few minutes later, she calls Tatsumi to talk. More than anything, she wanted to apologize, for she also knows that, deep down, he just wanted to help her. Tatsumi says that there is nothing that can be done. After all, a promise is a promise. And Nico also speaks about Yu, that at the end of the day, he did not serve for much, so to speak. But Tatsumi corrects her, saying that he did do something. Yes, and it is that when they were fighting, the bastard of Tatsumi concentrated only on hitting one of his feet, and thanks to that, he could not defend the last kick that Nico gave. And he also says that if Yu was so willing to help her, it is because he must like her quite a lot. And the poor thing even tries to feign dementia as she can. But Tatsumi still needed to say something to her. He says that yes, he wanted to invite her so that she could grow and become stronger. But there was also a selfish side that he wanted to be by her side. And although he is shy, he says straight to Nico that in reality he likes her. Upon hearing this, Nico says that she also likes him, and that she wishes him very well, but that it is just as a great friend. The poor Tatsumi falls to the floor, and although embarrassed, he faces her again, saying that he referred to the romantic sense of the word. Nico then stays in shock, and asks since when he sees her that way. Without mincing words, Tatsumi says that it was since the first time he saw her in the dojo. He would love to hear her answer, but he already knows what it is. In the end, he wanted her in his school because he liked her. And if she is going to remain where she is, it is because there is someone who likes her very much, and she probably knows very well whom he is talking about. But he prefers that she does not say. That way it will not hurt as much. Lastly, he congratulates her for having become stronger, and says goodbye, hoping that they see each other in a next confrontation. Nico is extremely spaced out, thinking about Yu in the moments she spent with him, and begins to act in a crazy way trying to deny reality. But this is something that not even a prodigy like her can do, and she leaves from there more nervous than when she started the fight. And returning home, she also gets irritated with her sisters, and with Yu, since they left as soon as the fight ended. But when she arrives in the kitchen, she faces the fact that Yu and the others received her with a surprise party, since our dear Yu wanted to celebrate the fact of Nico having decided to stay, which leaves her quite irritated for some reason. The youth also notices how Yu cooks despite being hurt, and says that there is no need to exert himself too much, but he wants to feel useful since he was not of much use in the previous fight. And Nico also takes advantage that her sisters are not looking and holds Yu's hand, and says that he wants to play tough, but that even a scratch hurts like hell. However, she also asks if he wants her to do something special for him. She understands that this time he exerted himself quite a lot, so she wants to give a prize, and he can ask for whatever he wants. Yu looks at her fixedly and asks if he really can ask for anything. In her imagination, Nico thinks that her innocence is in danger. Miwa and Kazuki overhear this madness and think that the two cannot be left alone. The sister asks for help, and Miwa says that if she wants the favor. The three see a complete package. Yu says that this way it is even better, since the four of them will be able to go to the amusement park, and as they see that in the end the request is nothing crazy, the three of them begin to think about what would happen if they went to this park, since if one of them chooses to go with him, they will look like a couple when they go on this date. And suddenly, Nico's cell phone begins to ring. It was none other than Mr. Mikadono. Yu did not care at all. In fact, before he could speak, He told Mr. Mikadono that no matter how much they are prodigies, if they are tired physically or mentally, they are not going to manage to be the best when it is necessary. He tells him that the last time the old man got quite irritated because they went to the festival, but this time everything is going to be fine, and the gentleman very politely tells him to shut up and hand the phone to Nico. The old man is very polite, but there is no way around it. Apparently, he wanted to speak with them about Nico's recent victory over Tatsumi, who is the best karate fighter in high school. It is true that it was not an official combat or anything, but she managed to defeat him, and Mr. Mikadono congratulates her for her good work. According to Kazuki, he is behaving well, because the result was better than expected. And it is true, Mr. Mikadono wonders since when she became so strong. He also thinks about what Yu said, and tells her to rest before the next combat. And it is then that Nico tells the girls that they have permission to rest, so they are going to be able to go to the amusement park. And Yu rejoices quite a lot, and says that it is set for next Sunday. But before they even talk about the date, the girls were studying to get closer to Yu. Until finally we see him waiting for the others at the amusement park. The first to approach is Miwa. A bit playful, she ended up going with a sporty outfit, thinking about comfort, since they are going to move around quite a lot. Right after appears Kazuki, who looks quite different, since this time she decided to disguise herself a little, so that they do not keep bothering her at every moment. Obviously to Yu, the two of them are equally beautiful. But after that arrives Nico. She chooses an outfit that really makes her look super feminine, and her sisters tease her, because she also disguised herself quite a lot. Obviously, Kazuki and Miwa were not so aware of Nico's taste, but Yu tells the youth that she looks quite beautiful, and that the outfit fit perfectly well on her. And after that, he leaves as if nothing had happened, and the three are quite irritated, because lately, it seems that he has them in the palm of his hand, so this leaves them angry, because he is hurting their pride. So this time the girls' plan is to make him depend on them. Their first plan is to go to a haunted house, and although here it is Kazuki who took the initiative, since literally they have to enter in pairs, and her sisters notice that Kazuki no longer is afraid to hide that she likes him. Besides, she already knows how the typical female protagonists act, and it is something that she plans to take advantage of. The bad thing is that they barely entered, and Kazuki is already more worried about seeing how this haunted house is being directed than simply walking with Yu. However, she notices her mistake, so she turns around to look at him with teary eyes so that he falls surrendered before her. This is something that Yu does not even notice. The poor guy had fallen because he felt too much fear, and the young man even tries to play tough, saying that he just slipped. But Kazuki wants to make him understand that all of this is fake, and that he should not have so much fear like that. But right after, some hands appear out of nowhere, and poor Yu gets startled, so he ends up hugging Kazuki, saying that these things give a lot of fear. Kazuki says it passed, everything is calm, everything will be fine. And when they finish the course, Miwa and Nico are worried, because the attraction had a good level of terror. Thus, it would be normal that Kazuki could act in a super feminine way. But suddenly they see how she comes out carrying our hero. Yu just apologizes for being such a scaredy cat, but also tells Kazuki that he is super happy for having entered with her, because her back calms him down quite a lot, making Kazuki fall even more in love with him. So she ended up losing once more. The next stop is the roller coaster. This time, the one who will be by Yu's side is Miwa. And before going up, Miwa tells Yu that she is very afraid of these things, because she is not used to either the speed or the height. Kazuki says that she cannot go up because she is wearing a wig, and it could come loose, and Nico does not want to go up alone, so only the two of them will go up, which ends up leaving Miwa quite happy, because it is obvious that she is not afraid of height nor speed. However, she wants to act like a fragile girl, and who needs her beloved to be able to hug her. However, after coming down from the attraction, when she tries to make her move, she sees that Yu is also not very well, because the poor guy became extremely nauseous and had to lie down. He says that in truth, he always avoided this type of attraction, because they give quite a lot of dread. However, he wanted to go up with her anyway, and because of that, he is quite embarrassed. But the girl understands a lot, and that is why she sits down and supports Yu next to her, so that he does not get a headache. and Yushu thanks her, although he is a bit embarrassed. But seeing him like this ends up embarrassing Miwa even more, so she ends up losing overwhelmingly as well. And the only one left standing is Nico. She definitely wants to be the first one who will give an arrow to his heart. The strategy is the spinning teacups attraction, since here she controls the speed with her own hand, but it is more fun. And she also wants to feel fear to act in a feminine way and snuggle up to our dear Yu. That said, the first one to spin the cup is precisely him, and he ends up spinning the wrong way and almost kissed Nico. He even tries to control the speed, but ends up breaking abruptly, and now almost gives a big kiss to her, but instead falls face first on the floor. So once again, Nico goes to help him, while her sister saw his situation with much disappointment. And it is not that Nico fell more in love, but her plan did not work very well, and thus the three of them lost. But losing does not mean surrendering, and that is why they want to try to do some things, while they take a break to eat something. Miwa is in the mood to clean his mouth, right after he has eaten something. In this way, she will leave him quite embarrassed. But Yu is the one who finishes doing that to her. Right after appears Kazuki, trying to make the two of them drink from the same cup. And well, it is impossible that she does not blush with that. But Yu takes courage and does that. And because of that, she is the one who finishes embarrassing herself. Nico, for her part, tries to choose something that is more in accordance with her diet, and since she finds nothing, Yu approaches to tell her that she can eat half of his plate, and thus does not eat too much. She finishes accepting, and asking for something like a quite delicious churros. She tries it and savors it a lot, because she always wanted to taste churros sometime. And she looks so beautiful that she ends up enchanting everyone. But since she was so cute even for her sisters, this ends up not counting as a victory. And well, thus all their plans continued failing and failing, one time after another, since none could fight against our Yu. When the moment to say goodbye to the park arrived, the three thought that Yu is too feminine. He is a little princess in every sense of the word. Besides, it was he who wanted to go to the amusement park, but no attraction ended up pleasing him much. Thus, they found no sense in that, until they see Yu observing a family taking photos together. Thus, everyone understands that he wanted precisely that, to spend some time in family, and nothing more. Not like them who are with second intentions, and think about doing things with the poor youth. That is why the three take a photo next to him, and without complaining much, since also thanks to him, they had quite a lot of fun going out among sisters, and each one mentions that he is being a great support for them. They then finish thanking in a quite honest way, and now it was a triple combo. Thus not even Yu can contain himself, so he was the one who finished all embarrassed. All this time they only needed to have thanked him, instead of making those silly plans for the whole day. In the end, Yu thanks everyone for the treat, and the three also get a bit embarrassed, and thus finish traveling back home. Although everyone was quite sleepy, at least until Miwa uses the string and sees them, but also sees a warning, where it talks regarding her being the undefeated and unbeatable queen, the shogi queen Miwa Mikadono, and certainly will also need Yu's help. After the adventure at the amusement park, both Kazuki and Nico feel rehabilitated to be able to continue with their task. They even think that doing this from time to time would not be bad at all, and Yu is quite content with that. Thus he says goodbye to them as always. But when he goes to do his tasks, he notices something wrong. It happens that Miwa left forgotten her lunch by accident. Normally, she gets super beautiful and all excited each time she is going to eat her lunch. So the boy is quite sad to see that she forgot. He decides to take it to her, and Yu goes thinking that he needs to arrive as soon as possible, so as not to make the girl hungry at a bad moment. However, he bumps into a girl who catches his attention. The youth is very concentrated reading a book, but accidentally bumped into a pole. In any case, she continues as if nothing had happened, and Yu notices that further ahead there is a construction where she could fall if she did not look straight ahead. That is why he helps her indirectly so that she crosses, but the girl already realized that he is there doing strange things. However, he also noticed that the girl is sweating too much on a very hot day, and that is why he gives her a candy that has good minerals so that she can continue her day, while he just says goodbye asking her to be careful. And curiously, she also had a candy identical to his. And after a moment, Yu arrives where Miwa is training. He is quite enchanted because she is very different when she is playing shogi. Thoughtful, Yu asks if by any chance Miwa is going to manage to win this confrontation, and a gentleman who is by his side gets surprised, but says that in reality, Miwa right now, as much of a prodigy as she may be, is quite cornered by her opponent. Yu observes attentively, and also notices that although everyone is in silence, the atmosphere is incredible. In contrast, Miwa notices something and makes a very strange gesture with her tongue. This ends up leaving the little old man who is by Yu's side quite excited, for as it seems, each time she does that, she found a way to win a confrontation. And it is said and done. With her single movement, her rival feels pressured and decides to surrender at once. Miwa relaxes and, although she does not totally celebrate her victory, instead, Yu goes to her with enthusiasm to greet her. She almost looks at him with contempt, but then notices that it is her dear Yu. Yu says that she was incredible and never appeared so well. In the house, she is a disaster, but there she looked genius, and Miwa does not even know how to react to that. But she leaves for a moment and asks why he came. Yu then shows her lunch and she gets surprised and receives it. Yu was already leaving, but Miwa says that since he came, then at least he will have to stay so they can eat together. Yu loved the idea since he was going to buy something for himself. But suddenly, the girl from before comes and simply steals Miwa's lunch. But we do not see what happens. They just sit down to eat, and Miwa is enchanted with her lunch. And the other girl was also very ready to eat with them. Miwa is furious because she was not invited, because she does not want to be bothered while she eats with Yu. But going back a moment, we see that when she stole the girl's lunch, she got quite irritated because a man is preparing the lunch for Miwa. Besides, Miwa takes the lunch back and protects it. Thus, she says to Yu that then he is the reason she is in decadence. And this frustrates her because Miwa is her greatest rival. And to Yu, it seems beautiful that they are rival, because a rival helps you reach even higher. And it is incredible because it is as if they were best friends and enemies at the same time. Those words rejoice Sakura very much. The name of this little crazy girl is that, Sakura Otome, since she herself proclaims herself the greatest rival of Miwa. Although according to Miwa, she has already defeated her more than 100 times, setting up the practice matches. In truth, the girl has not won a single time, and to Miwa, she is just a good for nothing, so she does not have the right to self-proclaim herself her rival. Besides, she is not in decadence, she literally just won and continues undefeated. However, Sakura says that although she is right because in fact she is, that about being in decadence is a truth. Normally, Miwa wins matches like the ones now in a few instances without hesitating. Currently, she is the greatest prodigy of all female shogi. And finally now she has the opportunity to challenge Miwa for her title, declaring at that moment to Miwa that she is going to put an end to her era once and for all. Miwa asks what era she is talking about. Then Sakura clarifies that she speaks of now. Because she is in her best moment, she is at her absolute apex. Thanks to that word, Yu notices that this girl in reality likes Miwa very much. In contrast, Sakura says that she will take the opportunity to study her in depth. And this leads us to the present, because this crazy one followed while they eat. Miwa responds that it is a pity, because she is not going to share any of her food with her. And although Sakura says she has her own lunch, what she has there gives pity, quite a lot of pity. A rice with egg would have been wonderful, but the poor thing has a very strange black thing there. It looks like a lump of coal. The girl says that she spent the whole time researching, and does not have time for it to look beautiful. At this, a little dog barks and makes her accidentally launch her food into the air. She even tries to catch it but trips. Yu sees that she can get hurt, so he runs to help her, and both fall at the same time. And she stays on top of Yu. Yu asks if she is well and Sakura gets enchanted by his appearance. Miwa is just observing all of this in the background, and asks what on earth they are doing in a sacred place like this. But out of nowhere, Sakura ends up slapping the poor Yu. She even says that he cannot go around doing these things before her big opportunity. And she calls Yu indecent, a pervert, and a troublemaker. Yu asks her to calm down and offers her his rice ball. But obviously she cannot eat that right now. And this is where they realize something very interesting. Everyone at the same time notices that Sakura and Yu look quite a lot alike. As they are taking too long, Miwa asks them to get up once and for all. Although, according to Sakura, that is none of her business. She should go practice for the upcoming matches. And Yu just laughs at this situation, finding the whole thing quite funny. And in fact, he likes that Miwa behaves this way, because at school she is always alone and isolated. On the other side, in the shogi world, she seems like a completely different person. But here, she simply has fun. That is why Yu directly tells Miwa that he is glad to have known such a cute side of her. And, half embarrassed, she says he should not smile like that. And she even says, just to make it very clear that she is not Sakura's friend. Once again, they start arguing playfully, and within a week, the two of them will be competing. So we are going to learn a little bit about Sakura. She is currently 15 years old. She is a professional shogi player in her first year of high school. That sounds amazing. But there really are many talents when they are young in this field. And because of that, at the beginning, she stayed in the shadow of her peers. However, the girl started to research a whole lot. And thanks to this, she began to win several matches and make a name for herself. This effort and grit gave her the opportunity to compete for the title. But Miwa is also in the same position and has never lost against Sakura. In addition, Miwa is the youngest woman to ever hold the title, and because of that, she is a real prodigy. People expect her to be the first woman at the level of the male professionals, and this difference makes it so that Sakura is not a rival for Miwa in the eyes of others. The only one who believes she can win is Sakura herself, and that is how we begin the first day of the duel for the title. Yu gets up early and makes no noise so as not to disturb Miwa, and her sisters are also doing exactly the same. The two of them ask Yu where he is going so early, and Yu says he is going to pray at a temple that is considered sacred for shogi, because he wants to wish Miwa good luck in her duel. Coincidentally, Nico has to run along a new route that goes to this temple, and by pure coincidence, Kazuki also has to play the role of a priestess in a new play, and so both of them go with him. Despite being quite early, when they go up, they also notice another person. Yu recognizes that it is Sakura herself. That is why he goes to greet her, although Yu is not very happy to see her. But the Mikadono sisters are also right behind him. Yu already knows that Sakura is a woman who deeply researches her strategies, and he did not think she was a person of faith to the point of praying. But although it hurts to admit, Sakura says she does not have the same gift as Miwa, and she has no problem accepting the help of the god. And in fact, Kazuki and Nico notice that she filled the whole place with amulets to win. In passing, Sakura asks Yu how he knows the three Mikadono sisters. Yu explains that due to certain circumstances, he ended up being taken in at the Mikadono house, and to return the favor, he fulfills a support role for them. For example, Miwa now seems to be having trouble, and someone as mediocre as him can only give a helping hand. But these words surprisingly end up irritating Sakura. She asks if, by any chance, he is content with living in the shadow of a prodigy like Miwa. He just says that he does the household chores and gives food to them, something that according to Yu has nothing wrong with it. He can do these things well, and besides, he finds it fun. But Sakura gets furious and says that it should not be like that. She could never live that way, especially since hiding in the shadow of a prodigy is for cowards. And firmly she says that the stage is not made only for prodigy, since she considers herself the protagonist of her own life. And she does not plan to yield that role just for not being born with the gift. Sakura says that for a moment, she believed that the two of them looked alike, but she just saw that she was wrong. And a bit disappointed, she decides to leave. Not without first swearing that she is going to win the duel for the title against Miwa. And having said these words, she starts walking away, but ends up tripping and falling. And I really think the two are very similar. Yu ends up getting worried and goes to help her, but he ends up tripping as well and falls on top of her again. The two fall silent and look fixedly at each other, except that Kazuki and Nico get furious with this situation, and Sakura tries to push Yu away again. But Yu looks at her and says that they definitely look a little bit alike, making her embarrass herself a whole lot and start kicking and throwing a tantrum next to him, because once again, Kazuki and Nico are left anxious. They are praying with all their might, begging that Miwa does not lose against that crazy girl. Meanwhile, the poor Miwa is quite peaceful at home, fast asleep. Thus, after a while, we move on to the Saika Cup. We are currently at the first professional duel of the second tier, between Sakura and Miwa. Both of them maintain a very serious attitude, and Sakura is the one who takes the first step. Yu watches the match from home on his cell phone. However, according to Kazuki and Nico, he did not need to pressure himself so much, since the title duel is a best of 5 series. Therefore, today, in reality, nothing will be definitively decided. Yet, none of this keeps Yu away from the screen. Likewise, Kazuki and Nico try to make him relax, because Miwa has never lost to that girl before. However, as the minutes pass, the two of them also become highly attentive, watching what is happening on the cell phone. This ends up leaving Yu quite surprised, which causes both of them to sit right next to him. Nevertheless, no matter how embarrassed they might feel, the two of them suddenly run away, because in their minds, Miwa has already won. However, when the match concludes, a silence falls over the house. Miwa ended up losing the match. Yu wants to run over to see Miwa immediately, but Kazuki asks him to please act normally. The two sisters go up to Miwa's room, close the door, and act like crazy inside, trying to calm her down. Similarly, Yu accepts the advice and begins to prepare dinner. However, he ends up making a special meal filled with little cats for Miwa. Right at that moment, Miwa arrives. Yu and his sisters act in an exaggerated manner, trying to make her feel better, but the poor girl says she has no appetite. This is quite strange because that never happens. Yu highlights this fact, and she replies that she needs to prepare for the next battle. It is then that she goes to confine herself in her room, leaving the others worried. After spending a long time in front of the computer, she gets tired and wants to go fetch some sugar. However, when she opens the door, she notices that they left proteins and supplements for her, and this brightens her mood considerably. Although she tries not to show it, she had not realized that Yu was sleeping nearby. She wants to know what he is doing there, and Yu replies that he was going to give her a late-night snack, but he needed her to come out to give it the finishing touch. They then go down to the kitchen, and she sees that it is a very strange, dark sphere. It is made of chocolate, which she absolutely loves. Furthermore, it contains a little surprise. Yu says that she needs to pour the hot chocolate syrup over it to finish the dish. However, she feels it is a pity, as it will ruin the appearance. Yet, upon doing so, Miwa sees that there are many little cookies shaped like cats, which are accompanied by vanilla ice cream. Yu, with a smile, asks her to enjoy it, and she is delighted. Although she finds it funny that he explains everything because it takes away a bit of the amusement, she intends to thoroughly enjoy this dish regardless. However, the next morning, back in the confrontation, Miwa loses once again. The public cannot explain what on earth is happening, and to begin with, she had never lost to Sakura before. Now only one more defeat remains for her to lose the championship entirely. Yu, extremely worried, runs to go see her, but he runs into Sakura, who tells him that Miwa left a long time ago. Following that, Sakura begins to laugh at Miwa, claiming she surely ran away with her tail between her legs. To her, this is the consequence of Miwa relying solely on her talent. While she was doing that, Sakura spent all her time training. That is why she is now very close to becoming the winner of this confrontation. These words do not seem to please Yu very much, but he ends up thanking Sakura anyway. She does not understand why, but to Yu it is quite obvious. Sakura continues to expect a lot from Miwa because she knows that Miwa did not give her 100%. Furthermore, to Yu, Sakura is actually worried about Miwa as well, since it is the first time her rival has suffered a defeat. Because of this, she is acting like a major villain to motivate her a bit more. Seeing that he is right, she blushes deeply, although she continues to deny it. Before leaving, Yu tells her that she is a wonderful person for doing this. However, he also makes it clear that this is by no means the end of Miwa Mikadono, something that pleases Sakura greatly. Nevertheless, it also ends up making her irritated, since he thinks too highly of himself for a mere support person. But when Yu returns home, he realizes that his sisters are worried due to the fact that Miwa came home like that, but left a while ago and has not returned since. According to Nico, she is merely depressed and is not going to do anything foolish. However, he recalls the moment she arrived and how she, along with Kazuki, was trying to cheer her up, making her see that the revenge begins from now on, and that lately they have also learned that one failure does not determine everything. But Miwa acted in a very cold manner toward the girls, since according to her, they are not the same. It was precisely then that she decided to go out, and now they realize that perhaps this match is by no means normal. It is not like the tests that they had been overcoming, because Miwa has always been a very calm and playful person, and she had never become as upset as she is now. Yu runs out, although he has no idea where to look for her, and under the rain, Yu is flooded with memories of her as he tries to understand why she became so angry. The first place he checks is a cat cafe, and as it turns out, she is actually there. She is peaceful, playing with the very cute cats, and Yu is greatly relieved to see her like this, because he thought she might be under a bridge, crying or something of the sort. Yu asks if she visits that place often, and she explains that she loves cats. In fact, she would love to have one, but given the way they live, it is impossible. Furthermore, Kazuki is allergic to animals, and well, this ends up calming Yu down, because she does not seem that depressed about having lost. He reminds her that she still has an opportunity to pull herself out of this hole, and he is certain that she will manage to do so. However, Miwa merely takes a breath and tries to relax with the poor little cat, and in this manner, without looking him in the face, she reveals the reality to him. Anyone who is a professional shogi player dedicates their entire life to it. They study every single day because they live for shogi. Yu understands this because he has always seen her at home that way, since she is constantly putting in effort. But as for Miwa, she does not view it that way, or at least it is not the way she likes. If she continues to do it, it is only because she needs to deliver results. Otherwise, anything else would have sufficed. However, when she was a child, her father looked at her and said she had an incredible talent for shogi, something that not even someone who exerts immense effort could ever achieve. Since she had the chance to be a prodigy, she decided to prove it. From that point onward, along with her physical growth, also came every kind of record that she began to break. For achieving these milestones, her father praised her, and her sisters did as well. This served to keep her matching their expectations. Yet one day, she asked her sisters why they did the things they did. Kazuki replied that she loves to shine on stage. For her part, Nico simply loves training, and everything she can achieve through it. In other words, it is something they love in some way. This was something Miwa did not understand, because she simply acted as she had been taught. That was exactly what she meant when she said they were different. Furthermore, shogi is terrifying. When you have an opponent in front of you, you can notice the passion they feel, the determination from the work they put in to want to win. This, in contrast to Miwa, makes her feel like a superficial person, someone who only seeks achievements so as not to feel left behind. She already knew that at a certain point, she would not be able to keep winning this way. This helplessness causes her, right now, to let out all the tears she had been holding inside. Yu merely comforts her and thanks her for telling him this, while Miwa does not know how to return home. Seeing that there is still some time left, Yu reassures her, because he will not let her return home just yet. Since it has precisely stopped raining, Yu wants to take her for a walk around the area. However, wherever they go, there are a lot of motels. Miwa becomes quite embarrassed because she thinks that perhaps something is going to happen today. But that is not the case at all. He takes her to a supermarket. I believe the poor girl was already prepared to give her heart to him, but it is far from that. Yu came here because Kazuki and Nico thought that Miwa had left because of them, and it would be nice if she took something back for them to reconcile. Miwa sees that this is also a good idea. Yu asks what they might like, and Miwa thinks for a moment. She sees that Kazuki is someone who acts in a very mature way, or at least tries to, and she surely appreciates something that is more bitter. Since she drinks a lot of coffee, a coffee jelly could please her greatly. Miwa is about to discover that her true talent is not just moving board pieces, but rather rediscovering the pleasure of playing for herself. And our dear Yu is going to help her with that. Continuing with the shopping, Miwa mentions that Nico is now acting in an increasingly cute manner. Although she tries to hide it, she also loves sweets, and that is why she picks up a small pastry that she will surely love. They gather a few items and go straight to Saika Academy. For some reason, they receive permission to enter at these hours. While they are cooking, Miwa finally asks a crucial question. To her, it was always strange that he was not good at anything, yet it seems he has a knack for cooking, even though everything has a normal flavor. This ends up making Yu nervous. He says that it is merely something noticeable because it is what he does best in comparison to other things, and nearly everything he does comes with great ease. He mentions that when he was a child, he noticed precisely that he was terrible at everything. Consequently, he began to distance himself from his mother because he felt inferior around her. There was a day when, without thinking too much, he decided to prepare his own breakfast. His dear mother arrived at that exact moment. She noticed what he had there and took it for herself. Well, she wanted to try a little bit, and according to her, it was quite delicious. Obviously, this filled the poor boy with hope. He was so happy that day that in order to see her smile again, he began to practice making all kinds of dishes. Although in doing so, the food would sometimes taste bad, even if it looked beautiful, or it would taste very good but have a terrible appearance. To make matters worse, his mother began to get busier. Thus, she could no longer taste anything he made, which left him quite irritated. It finally reached a point where he grew tired of doing it. However, it was exactly around that time that his mother was hospitalized. In that situation, he would only ask her what she wanted so he could go buy it. But his mother, with a bit of embarrassment, said she wanted him to cook for her. That was how he came to speak with the doctors, and they told him everything she could and could not eat. After one frustrated attempt after another, things finally began to work out. His mother smiled every time she ate something made by him. That is why he remained constant and continued cooking. It reached a point where he only thought about the smile of whoever was going to eat his dishes. In this manner, he began to improve little by little. He considers this a miracle, but to Miwa, that is an exaggeration. Nevertheless, he mentions that she was happy too, thinking that her sisters would be very pleased with what they were bringing them. This makes her extremely embarrassed, and she tries to make a lot of excuses. But in the end, Yu is right. As they are putting the finishing touches on the gifts, Yu tells Miwa that she had mentioned before that she was not like the other shogi players, or like her sisters, because the only thing she wants is to be appreciated and praised every time she does something. But looking at it from another perspective, if she wants to be praised, it is because she wishes for her father to be happy. And if she wants to be on the same level as her sisters, it is because she loves them. This leaves her embarrassed once again. But Yu continues his approach. To him, even if she does not strive to improve or reach higher, her main objective remains making others happy. She wants to be admired by her loved ones, and putting effort into that is wonderful. Yu tells her that she is actually a very beautiful person. Yu also notices that she has already finished decorating, and those sweets turned out quite beautiful. These exact words make Miwa happy, and she realizes it is true. She can put in the effort if it is for other people. Internally, this embarrassment is immense, because one of the people she wants to see happy most right now is Yu himself. When they finish everything, Yu falls asleep due to exhaustion. This bothers Miwa because he looks like a baby. However, it reminds her of when he arrived to see her. Afterward, he worried about her relationship with her sisters, and he also praised her, saying she was a very good person. Timidly, she wants to caress his head, but she hesitates and prefers to decorate a marshmallow instead. She even does this, leaving it in the shape of Yu, and she thanks him for it. Yet, she feels it is not enough and slowly approaches to give him a kiss. Shortly after a while, they finally return home. Kazuki and Nico are very irritated because they arrived very late. Apparently, Yu had notified them that he had found Miwa, but they want to know what they were doing during the remaining 4 hours they were out. Miwa intervenes, telling them not to yell at poor Yu, since she feels all of this is her fault. Because of this, she shows them each gift she made for them. She says it is from the heart and regrets what happened. On the other side, both are surprised to learn that she decorated them herself. Each one has its own uniqueness because they were designed specifically for them. In order not to let them go to waste, the two of them eat at the same time. Kazuki notices that the flavor is perfect for her, everything balanced exactly the way she loves it. On the other side, Nico boasts, saying that hers is much prettier. However, Kazuki does not care, because the decoration is not that important to her. In this manner, the two of them begin to fight over whom she likes more. Yu thinks it is foolish to fight using peace offerings, but at that moment, Miwa, with great shyness, also hands something to him. It is the chocolate from earlier. Yu thanks her, although he does not know where she found the time to make it. The sisters notice that the sweet looks exactly like him, but the forehead is a bit bald. They ask why it is like that, and Yu gets startled too, because he thinks he is losing his hair. But in reality, it is because that was where she kissed it. This causes Miwa to become dying of embarrassment, and she yells at Yu to eat it once and for all. Thus, a short time later, after fulfilling certain very important matters, Miwa prepares for her third duel. She walks with great tranquility and is well prepared mentally. Soon, Yu arrives along with her sisters, as they want to tell her that they will be supporting her from home by watching the broadcast of the match. However, Miwa states that, in truth, she no longer cares all that much about the championship. Her sisters are startled and ask why she wants to play then, but according to Miwa, that is now a secret. Miwa says goodbye and continues walking while remembering what she experienced with Yu. As I mentioned, he now understands certain things better. One of her greatest incentives to win this battle is because, just as her father and her sisters congratulate her, and she rejoiced when she won, she wants to win once more, because she wants Yu to be happy for her and to congratulate her. Thus, she advances to the game room, where people are saying that for the first time, the prodigy Miwa Mikadono finds herself in trouble. This is quite interesting, but above all, highly interesting to her, as she makes her entrance and forms an absurd aura, sitting down before her opponent. Sakura notices this. This is the Miwa she met for the very first time. Shortly after, she begins to remember her childhood, and her clumsiness stands out above all else for doing everything wrong. The girls who used to play with her did not want to do so anymore, saying she had been a failure since childhood. One day, when her grandparents visited them, she began to draw in a very cute way. Her grandparents arrived and saw that she was making a very beautiful giraffe, but that was actually a cat. The poor old man felt bad for making his little granddaughter feel sad, so in his desperation, he grabbed a shogi board and asked her to play for a moment. The gentleman very patiently taught her the rules of the game. When Sakura picked up a piece called the pawn, the gentleman explained that this piece was the weakest in shogi, and due to this, it cannot move many squares. Sakura identified with this a bit, and thus she did not like this horrible game. Nevertheless, the grandfather continued. He explained that the pawn only moves forward. It cannot go to the sides, nor can it even retreat. However, this does not stop it from advancing, since it can do so step by step, one at a time. Furthermore, if it reaches enemy territory, it transforms into a very strong piece, and depending on how it was utilized in the match, it can become something quite interesting. Her grandfather forgot that this girl was only 3 years old, but Sakura asked him to please teach her how to play shogi. Thus, just like a pawn, she began moving little by little. But by moving constantly, they reached a point where her grandfather could no longer win against her, and she realized that in this game, even if your effort is slow, it has its reward. This left her marveled, so much so that it became the only thing she could do well in life. At least, that was how she reached the 49th National Youth Shogi Tournament, for it was in that place that she came face to face with a genius. That coldness when playing, without exerting effort and cruelly pressuring the opponent to win, could only belong to the third daughter of the Mikadono family of prodigy. That was how the helplessness arose. The knowledge that, no matter how hard she exerted herself, she would not be able to reach her. There was a day when she was studying peacefully, causing no harm to anyone, but 2 classmates arrived and mocked her face. While Sakura might be good at shogi, she was truly very bad at other things. For instance, her grades were terrible, and they laughed at her face because of it. Poor Sakura could not say anything in response until Miwa arrived. Without even trying, she had memorized the plays of the 2 classmates who were laughing, who also practiced shogi. Miwa, with a very severe expression, told them that if they had time to stay around laughing at people, it would be better for them to dedicate themselves to practicing to improve. And in that manner, she drove the miserable girls away. Right after, Miwa complained to Sakura because when they mocked her, she said nothing, and the poor girl was merely crying. Upon seeing this, Miwa felt that she had acted badly. In a way, she did act badly, since she not only defeated Sakura in shogi, but right now she was taking pity on her. She was not even capable of seeing her as a rival, or at least in her perception. That was what she believed. Miwa, trying to make her feel better, reminded her that last time she made a move with the pawn that she did not expect in any way. Hearing this makes Sakura remember the words of her grandfather. As long as the pawn advances, it can become a very strong piece. Miwa tells her this as well. She had never encountered anyone who valued pawns so much in shogi. This causes her to stand out in comparison to the other players. In this manner, Sakura realizes that she is just like the pawn. The only thing she can do is to keep moving forward. For that reason, she openly declares right to Miwa's face that she will show her that even pawns can become the heroes of their own story. It was from that day onward that she turned Miwa Mikadono into her greatest rival. Although poor Miwa did not understand anything of what was going on, she merely feels that an obsessed person has attached herself to her or something of the sort. Since that day, Sakura pursued someone who never looked back, but now that very same person is facing her head-on. The match finally begins. The pieces move according to each player's rhythm, and this battle is intense. Although only the sound of the pieces can be heard, Miwa pressures Sakura, who tries to stay calm, as she is incapable of surrendering. That is, at least until Miwa makes her characteristic gesture with her lips. She found Sakura's weakness and won this third battle, something that happened once again in the 4th confrontation. In fact, the media outlets are ecstatic, since Miwa, who was on the verge of losing, is now about to pull off a historic comeback. She has just achieved 2 impossible victories, and that is how we reach the grand final of all. Her sisters were very sad because they wanted to support her in person, but Miwa says no, because they would get in the way more than they would help. However, Yu does not give up and wants to support her with his entire being. When they are face to face once more, Sakura concentrates mentally in order to manage to deliver everything she has learned up until now. Obviously, Miwa does not want to be left behind. This greatly motivates her sisters behind the scene. For instance, Nico is dedicating herself to the absolute maximum in her training. Yu wants to prepare an exquisite buffet for when she arrives, and Kazuki is exerting twice her usual effort in her rehearsals. We do not get to see the actual duel itself, but Miwa won once again. Officially, she defended her title one more time. The journalists bombard her with photos and questions, but she only focused on someone who was way in the back, because Yu was calling her. Therefore, she ran out to see him. She asks how he is doing, and Yu is so happy that he cannot stop crying. She did not want to see him that way, so she tries to calm him down. But from one moment to the next, and without her expecting it, Yu congratulates her for defending her title, and this fills her with calmness and emotion. She remembers how he has always been there for her since the very beginning. He did not even want her to stand out in anything. He just supported her in the way he could. He had been taking care of both her and her sisters, and it was precisely that expression of relief and happiness that Yu always displays which she wished to see. This makes her extremely happy, and she decides to give him a kiss on his forehead. This happens to be a moment that, by a twist of fate, her sisters ended up witnessing. A very intimate and unusual moment that they did not even intend to cause, yet it simply ended up happening. She begins to die of embarrassment, while Yu has absolutely no idea what to do. Fortunately, two foreigners arrive and begin to speak to Miwa in English. Thus, she begins to pretend that nothing happened in light of what just occurred. This reminds the sisters that she lived abroad for a while. Miwa, who is incredibly clever, immediately seizes the opportunity to say that over there, those people greet each other by giving kisses, and that is exactly what just happened with Yu. She managed to escape well from this situation. She even adds that if the girls want to view it in any other way, that is their problem and a result of their own perversions. Since Yu is very naive, he ends up believing what she said, although her sisters do not believe a single word she uttered. Despite this, they are very happy because she won. Nico says that she remains as impressive as always, and Kazuki is very proud of her little sister. For this reason, Miwa is so glad that she gives a kiss to each one of them as well. Yu sees them so happy that he wishes to conclude this moment with a photograph, which turns out very beautiful. Meanwhile, from a distance, Sakura observes them while being completely alone. Poor girl. Once again, she was unable to reach Miwa, but this time at least she looked at her head on, and for now that is enough. She also ends up noticing Yu, because he is a very ordinary person. Yet even so, he was capable of causing these young prodigies to begin moving in an impressive manner. Therefore, although she may not like it, he also represents the idea of being a weak and small pawn, and sooner or later, he can transform into something incredible, to the point of managing to become the protagonist if he so desires. The next morning, Yu reflects on everything that has been happening. For him, it has already become a routine to hear Nico breaking concrete upstairs at 7 in the morning. On the other hand, he can also see Miwa conversing with the artificial intelligence all the time. At the same time, he also takes care of the meals for the oldest girl. Kazuki was highly suspicious at first. Nonetheless, she took the first step to try it anyway. She really should not have done that, because it was extremely bitter. Irritated, she wanted to make him taste the bad recipe he had created, but then she realized that doing so would be an indirect kiss, so she ended up giving up on the idea. Obviously, he also has his moment with Nico, where he hands her a towel so she can wipe away her sweat. This towel has the scent of flowers that she likes so much. He also pampers Miwa in his own way. He hands her a jelly when her sweets run out, and he wants to feed it directly into her mouth. However, this causes a lot of embarrassment, so she ends up eating it by herself. Their life is nothing special in reality, but they talk and laugh together, and that is exactly what a family does, just as his mother wished to do. Although he does not truly know what he is looking for right now, for the time being, he focuses on what is common and important, which is saying goodbye to them so they can have a great day. This is something that continues to fill his heart with great hope. Despite this, during the nights, the trouble begins once more. At least for the sisters, since Sakura had arrived right at their doorstep. She was determined to spend a few days with them, justifying it by saying she needs to study Miwa better to manage to surpass her. But this is where we finish our anime. I hope you all enjoyed it. This anime is quite entertaining, and that is it. We are in this together. Stay with God. Thank you. Take care, and until the next video. And if you stayed here until the very end, comment down below. 1 is good, but 3 is even better. So we know you made it this far. We are in this together.